Every week, Pit Stop TV brings you TV-style broadcast, iRacing sim content, streamed live to several platforms. There's another group of individuals who put out amazing iRacing sim content, however, and they are, of course, Twitch streamers. Today, the North American Racing League brings a new tenure with Pit Stop TV with streamers in mind. The first North American Racing League Streamers Championship is next on Pit Stop TV. We welcome you to virtual Brazelton, Georgia. Eric Brennan on the call with me. So glad to have Trey Shuttlesworth alongside in our social media content this, I was going to say this afternoon, not even afternoon, Eric, this morning. It is a Sunday morning. We're glad to be here this morning for Tests of Skill, not just for some Twitch viewers, but here as well on Pit Stop TV.
Absolutely. I can't think of a better way to kick off my Sunday morning here on the East Coast of the States with a warm cup of hot coffee and getting ready to see some really talented sim racers and real racers. And I think the theme across the board is unanimous, whether it be for us on the broadcast side or some of these sim racers and streamers that we're going to have. Everybody's had a pretty busy weekend, whether it be racing related or from other duties or honey-do list, you name it. And for everyone to get up bright and early and get ready to tackle this racetrack that is exceptionally scenic and, more importantly, fun, I think it's just the proper way to start off our day here. And I love the format of this series. This is a little bit different than what we're used to doing, and I think it's going to be a really good time.
Absolutely. It's a very different format today at the very least, of course, being the Streamers Championship. But thanks for joining us this morning on our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter platforms. Once again, happy to be here for our first ever presentation of the NARL, the North American Racing League. A fast-paced, undulating, and winding circuit, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta in almost every way embodies everything an American road circuit should be. Fast sweepers, challenging S's, long straightaways, and plenty of elevation change peppered within the Georgia backwoods. Eric, Road Atlanta is a perfect place to put on epic racing, real or sim, but what exactly do you think makes it that way?
Well, even though, as we were joking a little bit before we come on air, this is one of the few road courses where we don't have 1,000 corner names. Really, the only one you see there on the track map is the S's, which is self-explanatory. But the one thing that I love about this place is passing opportunities. You look at turn 1, turn 6, that huge, long, as you mentioned, undulating, or that winding run down to turn 10. There's a number of chances in order to try to make a move on a circuit that is somewhat narrow, somewhat unforgiving with all the grass that outlines the inside and outside of the asphalt. And it provides a unique element for drivers to, if you have a bad lap or a bad qualifying run, you can work your way up through the field. And also, it applies pressure to some of the front runners to make sure that they remain as perfect as possible, because you can make a significant mistake. And I think this track has proven to be good for motorcycle racing. It's proven to be good for open wheel racing, and it has proven time and time again to be good for GT3 cars like what we have here today. So, like I said, the formulation of what we've got here this Sunday morning is perfect for a fun morning, and in some places afternoon, depending on where you're watching. Maybe it's even evening. And between the racetrack, the cars, the talent, and the structure, I think that we have a home run for this first installment on Pit Stop TV with this league.
Absolutely, and you mentioned that it's, well, we both mentioned that it's a winding road. I do want to mention, we both live in somewhat rural North Carolina. We drive through rural Carolinas, Georgia, whatever it may be, to get to racetracks very often. This feels like a road that we could be driving on, honestly, at any point in time. It really does. Even with the chicane at 10A, 10B, I feel like at an intersection at some point in time, like, that could be something we see driving through the countryside in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, wherever. I feel like this is just a proper country road that somebody made a circuit. It's what it feels like in a lot of ways. So, Road Atlanta, I think one of the best circuits in all of North America. If not, I think certainly has to be considered one of the best circuits in the world. It's a fantastic place to come and race, real or virtually. Practice is underway. In fact, it's been underway since 9 o'clock this morning, Eastern Standard Time. That was 52 minutes ago. Let's take a look at some of the standings so far. Now, you'll see we have a lot of streamer logos on the left side of your ticker, not numbers. It looks like one guy, maybe a sub, had to fill in this morning. He doesn't have a streamer logo. We'll get more on that later. These streamer logos are on the ticker for a fantastic reason. I mentioned this is the Streamers Championship, Eric. Each streamer being featured today, we've got Dan Suzuki, Dave Cam, Matt Malone, Balkan, and Sampsoid. You can see some of them on your ticker scrolling by. Each streamer, each Swiss streamer, has selected 6 drivers, 3 pro, 3 am, to build themselves a team. But it's not just those teams that are racing, the streamers themselves. You can see Dave Cameron in 6th. Looks like Sampsoid is in 7th. I saw Matt Malone somewhere out there. Dan Suzuki 2nd place right now. That is impressive in and of itself. So each of these streamers has assembled themselves. It kind of feels like the Avengers. They've assembled themselves a team. They're ready to fight here at Road Atlanta. It's going to be a fantastic way to kick off our tenure with the North American Racing League.
If we look at the times here with about 7.5 minutes to go, I love the parity that we're seeing. I mean, we've got 3 different teams up in the top 5. As a matter of fact, things are going to shuffle around here a little bit more, but you still got 3, now 4, 5 teams total in the top 10 of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we have. So everyone pretty well represented there in the top 10 as far as the practice chart's concerned. And what is a stacked field? I mean, we've got 35 cars that are going to partake in this race, and it's seeing that not everybody has been able to, or it doesn't appear that one individual, although Dan Suzuki's doing a great job by holding down the top 2 spots, not only for he, but his team, it doesn't appear that there is one streamer who has been able to pluck the best of the bunch at this point. Granted, we haven't even started an official qualifying session yet, but with that in mind, seeing how the board is pretty much broken down in a parity standpoint, I think that the competitive element of this field is going to be stretched across the board. Oh, and by the way, that whole top 10 is separated by less than 0.5 of a second. So these guys are really solid, and they're proving it here on a track that we outlined that could be tough yet fun. And I can't wait till we get down to race time, because as you can see, these guys are doing everything they have to do, including attacking a lot of that curbing on the inside and outside of the racetrack. And that appears to be a driver preference here. How rough do you want to try to hit some of those blue and yellow curbs? And will it in fact help the lap time, as we see Matt Malone overcook it a little bit on corner exit and slide around backwards on the straightaway that leads up towards turn 6, and he'll let that thing roll. But
oh, goodness. Well, and that's how quickly you can get caught up in something. And Road Atlanta has a lot of blind areas as well, where if you don't know a crash is coming up, you may not miss it. I think that was a perfect example of what could happen. Now, I do want to mention, we've got 24 drivers within a second. You talked about the top 10 being within a half second. Well, the next 12 or so drivers, 14 drivers it seems like, are all within another half second. The entire top 24 is within 9.5 tenths. You have to go all the way back to James Davidson in the 25th position in the number 20 to find somebody more than a second back of our practice leader in Frederick Klockner, Fabian Klockner. But the interesting thing here is he's only a couple of thousandths behind that second mark. So really, you could honestly consider the top 25 to be within a whole second. And that's more than the Formula One grid, for reference. That is more cars than the entire F1 grid within 1 second of one another. That's why GT3 cars are so loved, especially here at Road Atlanta. It's just, I can't wait to see these guys get racing. And obviously, this is over a whole hour practice, a lot of time to nail yourself down and get a rhythm going. But it's still a fantastic preview of what's to come throughout a 50-minute race. Let's talk about the race as well. We've got fixed setups under these cars, which is very different from what a lot of these guys will be used to running. The fact that these are fixed setups for each of these race cars is going to be very interesting, and I think it comes down in a lot of ways to the car you select. You've got to find the right car for you and the racetrack, especially at a place like Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. You can't just go with the overall kind of fastest car in a straight line or the fastest car around a corner. You've got to pick what works for you as well, because this is such a driver-centered racetrack. Everything has to feel right around here. We've also got 50% fuel limits. That's going to force at least one pit stop. We don't expect to see tires, but somebody could throw them in if they're attacking really, really hard in that first stint to their pit stop, especially if they push that fuel to around, I'd say, 35 minutes, but you really don't have much wiggle room. You might be able, you might be able to get to 35 minutes, but that would be pushing it.
I kind of love the element that we're going to see fuel stops in here, because with the field running as close as possible, that introduces an element of strategy that maybe we'll have some of these stream teams kind of all on the same page with one another. Maybe they've all kind of calculated the timing in which they want to come in, how they want to come in, and how much fuel they're going to have to take to make it to the end of this race. And on top of that, it's also going to give an opportunity for maybe some of the teams to outsmart one another in that ranking. And I'm curious as to how much time a lot of these people have had. If we look at, we were talking about this before we came on air, Andrew. How about the driver who's currently 9th right now in the standings? That is Tony Kanaan. And the last 24 hours for him has been pretty crazy, considering the fact that the former Indy 500 winner and open wheel star was in an element for the second week in a row that he's not all that familiar with. Now he's back here on the sim this morning.
Yeah, and of course, he's here representing Samsoid. He's just here as another driver, realistically, to support his buddy Samsoid. But it is really incredible the fact that he was in an SRX car at Eldora some 12 hours ago. Thereabouts, maybe a little bit longer. It's hard to say exactly, but about 12 hours ago, he was racing at Eldora with Tony Stewart, Willie T. Ribbs, Bill Elliott, Michael Waltrip, Paul Tracy, and, well, Ernie Francis Jr., as we found out. Those two guys got a little bit handsy, but the fact that he has made it home and is on the sim bright and early Sunday morning, I think is pretty incredible to me. That's crazy. The fact that he was in Eldora racing Tony Stewart and is now here on the sim with these guys, supporting, again, Samsoid, who looks like he's in 8th spot right now in practice. That's pretty incredible. And I think that highlights a bigger theme within sim racing, where you'll see a lot of drivers go and race whatever throughout the day. They know they've got a big league event coming up, but they don't always dedicate all of their free time on the sim to that big event. They're going to go and race other stuff. They're going to go and keep themselves sharp in other races. On the oval side, for example, they might have a big league race like Nort coming up on a Tuesday, and they're going to be running C fixed just a couple hours prior. It's really incredible to me how sim racers, even as a sim racer myself, how sim racers tend to do that. They just kind of race whatever, and then eventually they're pop into their big race, and they go ahead and they run it. But obviously the travel and the physical endurance isn't the same as what Tony Kanaan did last night. But sim racers do a lot of the same, where they're just running whatever, and they have to make that switch pretty quickly. It's pretty incredible sometimes what each of these guys will get up to. Qualifying on the way here from Road Atlanta. We want to take a step aside right quick and get a message from our partners here at Pit Stop TV. Don't go anywhere, because we've got qualifying from the North American Racing League Streamers Championship at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta just after this.
Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Welcome back to a beautiful Sunday morning in virtual Brazelton, Georgia. I've driven by this place a lot recently, always wanting to stop by. I've stopped by here once. It is a fantastic facility to take in all of its entirety. In real life, it's very similar in sim, honestly. It's a fantastic road circuit, Eric. Happy to be here with you for the North American Racing League. Again, we've got Trey Shuttlesworth over on our social media coverage. Happy to have him along for the ride as well. And happy to have the North American Racing League on the channel for the first time. Now, we'll have a normal, much more normal, I'd say, GT3 Championship coming your way as of July 22nd. Make sure to be around for that on Thursday nights. But for now, it is the first annual Streamers Championship. We've got Dan Suzuka, we've got Matt Malone, we've got Samsoid, Balkan, and Dave Cameron in the field this evening. No, not even this evening, this morning. I keep tripping myself up with that. And each of those streamers have their own team of 6 drivers, 3 Pro, 3M. Ideally, it's going to be fun, and they are hitting the track for the first time in qualifying. Let's take a look at some of the drivers on the speedway, and the first that we'll take a look at is the number 1, rather fittingly, Trevor Leonard. Currently out there, well, in his Mercedes. And I gotta say, I'm noticing a lot of Mercedes. This is different from what we've seen recently in GT3 competition on the sim. The Mercedes, I think, in 2018, 2019 was the car to go with, the car to beat. But we've had a lot of newcomers hit the field recently. The Ferrari is still somewhat new. The Lamborghini, though, brand new still. The Porsche now that's been lined up against these guys, the 911R, is brand new. I haven't seen many of either of those. I'm seeing these guys return to the Mercedes. It seems like the big motor in the front is the formula that works here.
And you would have a little more experience on that than I do. I don't get to spend all that much time on the sim, and I was never all that much of a good road racer, that's for sure. But a car choice in these GT3 categories where they truly offer a multi-class kind of function, it truly is kind of presenting interesting scenarios and preferences. And it does seem to matter, especially on a track like this, where you can, in fact, see how much the straightaway, specifically from turn 7 all the way down to turn 10, will matter a lot. As a matter of fact, the driver we're on board with here, Linus Techno, he's going to be coming through here, the exit of turn 5, that's through the S's. We're on board with him up to the next best braking zone, that's turn 6, a hard right-hander. It'll be followed up by another right-hander at turn 7, and then the longest straightaway that kind of incurs a small left-handed kink that they dub here turn 8. You see it right up out the windshield here, out the front of Techno's car. And this is where you really want to make sure that you got a lot of power underneath you, because this straightaway seems to last forever, but then you've got to, of course, get it down to a bit of a stop here by the time you hit that chicane at turn 10, which we still haven't gotten there yet.
No, that's how long this straightaway is, of course, long enough to land a plane on. The previous owners back in the 80s used to do that, and now up and over turn 11. We'll go down to turn 12, and that's a lap around Road Atlanta. Brock Kelly has just gone fastest for Dave Cameron. So we're starting to see some of the differences in the streamers' fields. We had a lot of Dan Suzuki guys go to the top of the board. Now Balkan gets somebody up on the top of the board. Techno goes faster, and it's the best of 3 laps. That's different from what we usually see. We usually see either an open session, just to all the drivers to run laps to themselves, or, well, I guess as a group, and they can run as many as they want to within that session, or we see closed sessions for 2 laps. Those are more normal. A 3-lap session, a little bit different. The idea is the same, though. That 3rd lap could matter a ton, especially getting these tires up to temp. We've got Brock Kelly headed down that long straightaway, interestingly in the number 911, but in a BMW.
And now you see, and what I love about this racetrack here, especially that sector, when we saw Brock Kelly come to the end of that back straightaway, you saw the front nose of that BMW drop. It's just a good visualization as to how hard you got to get on the binders there at that portion of the racetrack. And then coming off this final corner at turn 12 and back up onto the main straightaway, the cars just look out of control. Reason being, Brock Kelly just turned the fastest lap of his session as he came down to the line that time. You have to be on such edge to the point where it is visually obvious. Not all racetracks and car combinations are able to provide that visual element of near disaster each and every lap, but Brock Kelly just put on a good performance of that, and now we'll see what Dan Suzuki could do here. Another one of those drivers, as you mentioned, in the Mercedes AMG.
And Dan sits 8th currently on the board. He is 3rd, though, of his team. So his team's looking pretty good. He's got 3 drivers, including himself, in that top 10. Dave Cameron, the only other to do that so far. Samsoid's got 2, and Matt Malone and Balkan each only have 1 of the top 10. These guys are being graded, scored as a team when it comes down to it after the conclusion of 50 minutes of racing. The team with the best, I believe, average finish, I would imagine, of their 7 drivers will win the day, and Dan Suzuki has just gone to 3rd, so one-upping his own team. He goes up there and sets a time just over a 10th behind Tech. Now, that is incredible what Dan Suzuki just did. Wow, that is laying it down for sure.
One of the things that I'm starting to notice, we were looking at the times in practice, how the top 10 was separated by less than 5/10 of a second. Then in that close proximity kind of stretched all the way throughout the top 26, where we had about 26 cars within a second and a half of each other. I thought maybe because of the fact that that was a 1-hour practice session, that everyone was just able to kind of get themselves, in the same ballpark with one another. Now here we are in this fast-paced 10-minute best-of-3 lap qualifying, and that distance is remaining the same, and a lot of the heavy hitters that we saw leading that practice session are in different spots, and a couple of names now, like that of Linus Techno, who is now quickest, over that of Brock Kelly and Dan Suzuki. We're seeing things shuffle around, but that gap as far as pace between the field and throughout the field, it's remaining constant, which is kind of revving up my hopes for this race even more so.
Here we go. Here is a Lamborghini Huracan that's brand new to the service, and these in interesting colors. We've seen that VSR logo a lot, haven't we, over in the Pacific GT3 Challenge. We saw a lot of that VSR logo on the side of a particular Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car with Nick Ludicky. Interesting, though, that we see one of his teammates out here representing, it looks like, Dave Cam today. That number 31 looks pretty good. Ankerson piloting the number 31 this afternoon. 7th place, nothing to scoff at, certainly, in the field of 35. Dan Bull, we were looking at him recently, looking at him once more. And let's check in with another BMW, T. Gashburn, representing, it looks like, we've got to wait for it to come back around, but in the 19th position currently, the number 871 looking rather sporty. Do want to highlight the weather these drivers are contending with currently. Very calm, I would say, certainly for a summer day. Look at that, 70 degrees in the air, 76 on the racetrack, and relatively calm winds, but sustained not quite 10 miles an hour.
If we were able to be an actual spectator at this event, this would be probably one of the most perfect days that you could have at the racetrack. I mean, kind of matching some of the weather that some parts of the country are having. Not quite here in the Carolinas. We're flirting with 90, as you saw, all 4 wheels going off into the grass there at that very tough chicane, and that may not be the last time that we see something of that nature coming through that corner. The biggest part is that when you merge back up onto the pavement, you don't want to take anybody with you, and fortunately in this qualifying session, there was enough of a gap there between that vehicle and this one, another BMW in the mix of Eric Pereira. So, and time is starting to wind down here. A lot of these drivers, I believe, right now, like that of Pereira, if this is even your third lap, this is going to be probably your last chance to try to move your way on up into the running order. And as they run right now, I don't see Pereira's name in the top 10, and it still remains pretty tightly contested throughout that top 10, with Tecto currently P1, followed by Kelly and Suzuki, Cameron and Kanan your top 5 with 50 seconds left to go, plus the drivers who will have a chance to complete their lap once they have begun the final circuit here.
So 40 seconds and counting now, watching Eric Pereira from Matt Malone in the 34th position currently. It looks like David Goodall will not take a time in this qualifying session. Not exactly sure on the story there, but he sits in that 35th spot tentatively based on how, well, I mean, he will stay there. He's the only driver not to take a time, but we'll see how that all works out. He is representing Balkan this afternoon in that number 34. So watching Pereira come around to complete his final lap of qualifying. On the final lap, I'd imagine that gets completed here in qualifying. Looks like T. Gashburn's still on the speedway. And look at that. Pereira pulls it into the pit lane. So we will get set to go for some racing action here momentarily. 50 minutes on the way. Can't wait to get it started. So happy that you're joining us here on Pit Stop TV this morning. It's an early one compared to what we normally do here, Eric. We're used to races that fire off somewhere between 7 and 10 o'clock Eastern. That's in the evening, though. That's PM. Now it's somewhere between 7 and 10 a.m. Well, it is 10 a.m. Roughly Eastern time. So it's definitely an adjustment there, but happy to be here, especially with this kind of event. A lot of big names in this field as we get set to go. Let's walk down our starting grid now that we've got it assembled. On the front row, we've got Linus Tech now representing, I want to say that was, it was Dan Suzuki, wasn't it, in that 36? Either way, Brock Kelly will start to his outside. Starting off in the third position, we've got Dan Suzuki himself in that number 18. Dave Cameron to his outside. That is going to be a row to watch as we roll down to turn number 1. Dan Suzuki inside, Dave Cameron outside. Starting fifth this afternoon, Tony Kanan in that number 19. Fabian Klockner starting to his outside. Rounding out the top 10, we've got 4 more drivers. Anders Ankerson, we've got Yannick Mormon. And then rounding out the top 10, Jack Tranter and Ahmet Yildirim.
Up there on the pronunciation of all those. Here's my turn. Trevor Leonard inside of row 6 at 11th spot. Outside is going to be that of Tim Grevin in 12th spot. 13th is where you'll find Tommy Wild. With Dan Bull in the car 3 outside in 14th spot. Dane Verano will be inside of row number 8 and 15th. Outside will be that of Marie Hershka. We're going to work on that one, but that's going to be your 16th starter, ironically also in car 16. 17th spot, Matt Malone, one of the leading streamers. He'll be identified by the red logo on the timing and scoring ticker, and David Sampson outside in 18th spot. And then we will have in the 19th spot, Teague Ashburn, who we saw out there late in qualifying, and Mark Custers in 20th.
Starting 21st here at Road Atlanta, we've got James Davidson, a different James Davidson from maybe an IndyCar and NASCAR competition. Then we've got Slaven Prusina in that number 28. Starting third, we're going to have none other than Joe Loon with Todd Malek to his outside. Starting in the 25th position, it's Tony Yates in that number 10, then Ian Carter in 26. Starting 27th, it's going to be Sean Vincent in the 226, Owen Constantine to his outside. Starting in the 29th position, Niels Duker in that 23 with Annie Rabbits starting in 30th.
Rounding out the rest of our field is going to be Anthony Wartholds in 31st spot. 32nd, Mike Kopetsky. 33rd spot, driver who was able to turn a lap in qualifying was that of Gil Diart and Eric Pereira, who was one of the last cars to take time in the session. And then rounding out our field is going to be that of David Goodall in 35th spot.
So a lot of drivers, brand new names as well to us. I think the only names we've seen before, maybe Matt Malone, Tony Kanan. So apologies if we did botch some of those up, but by all means, if you're in the stream chat and you can help us out with that, we will take any and all help that we can get with those pronunciations. Ready to go for 50 minutes. It's not a lap race here at Road Atlanta, a minute race. I think that's pretty common to a lot of you road racing viewers, but if any of you are coming over from maybe oval racing potentially, that's pretty normal over here. So 50 minutes, and when the time time runs out, they usually get that white flag signal, especially if that last lap will take them beyond the 50-minute timer. We'll see how that all works out later on, but that could potentially cause fuel load problems if anybody stops short trying to, well, beat everybody to that pit lane. We'll see how it all goes. A lot of drivers to get into that pit lane. That is actually a big concern, I think, is to try and pit when nobody else is pitting. It's going to be a struggle, or at least when as few other drivers are pitting as possible. This is the one time I think you don't want to come in with anybody else. I'm not exactly sure how you want to play that, but these drivers, they've got an idea and they're ready to do it here this morning from Road Atlanta. Watching the field work down, well, I say down, but up the hill for the final time and around to our starting grid. Linus Tech now on pole, leading us to the green, and we're green for the first annual Streamers Championship from Road Atlanta. A little bit of contact over the hill, now down through the S's for the first time. Look at the entire field, Eric, winding through those corners. That is a sight to see.
Absolutely love that shot and love the fact that the majority of the field looks like everybody is still pointed in the right direction. We just packed 35 of these cars off through the first half lap here at the narrow, quick, and edgy Road Atlanta, and everybody's kind of settling into a bit of a rhythm here early in the going. And I'm with you. I want to echo a point that you were making there just at the end of that parade lap. Pitting. If we don't see some separation between these cars by the time they get to the end of that 50% fuel fill, it's going to be tough for these guys to get on the pit lane by themselves. So trying to get some separation between yourself and the competition, this is the best chance you've got to do it early in this race. But so far, everybody's still tightly bunched together.
So Tech now leading, representing Balkan in that lead car, the number 36. But down the hill, we've got Dan Suzuki with a mirror full of Dave Cam right now. I said this would be a battle to watch on that opening lap. Well, Dave Cam lost that position. Well, not really lost that position. Technically, Suzuki qualified in front of him, but wasn't able to capitalize on being side by side with him. Now the two Mercedes work back up the hill to the S's, in behind that leading McLaren of Tech now.
Tech now is doing a great job early in this race by mining about a 0.5 of a second advantage over Suzuki, and then Cameron third. Three different streamers represented in the top three spots. You have to go back to the fourth place runner of Klockner in order to find a repeat streamer. That is the Dan Suzuki team car. So they run second and fourth respectively, with Tony Kanaan fifth. Right now, there doesn't appear to be too much aggression, even though this is a sprint race style, as you were mentioning there, Andrew. Not a lot of time to get jobs done or passes made, but so far not seeing too much assertion by that front five at this point in the race.
Down the back stretch once more. We'll work through that quick turn 9. I mean, it is a turn, but it isn't a turn. The biggest thing is, in certain cars, it can upset the handle. In these GT3 cars, a lot of air devices, they shouldn't get too upset by them. Still watching this top four battle with Klockner all over Cameron. Now, this would be interesting if Klockner can get by Dave Cameron. That would, of course, put Dan Suzuki on 2 positions of the podium. That would be interesting if Fabian can get there. But right now, Dave Cam looking pretty solid in that third spot. Tech now goes fastest. No surprise there. Oh, but Dave Cam, that is a bit of a surprise. Being in that third spot, though, the toe pays off, especially down that long backstretch. A lot of time to be made up. And while these aren't spec Miatas that draft here in a blinding fashion, these GT3 cars certainly will use that slipstream. They will draft a little bit here at Road Atlanta. Some other battles popping up throughout the top 10, looking at Trevor Leonard now, Jack Tranter, and Dan Bull working down the S's. A lot going on. It's hard to cover it all at once, but man, we're going to try.
The opportunities to take advantage of that draft exist pretty often here around this layout at Road Atlanta. And I will tell you that the obvious one is down that long back straightaway to turn 10, but even coming out of the chicane there at the exit of 10B through 11 and 12 towards turn 1, I mean, that also provides a good bit of a slipstream opportunity as we see everybody in a bit of a Congo line here down this backstretch, trying to see if somebody could pull up to and pull out on, trying to make a move across this top 5 that has started to separate themselves. The gap between Kanaan and Ankerson is about 1 second. There goes your front 5, and then a little bit of breathing room where Kanaan has very little pressure off the back bumper of his ride and holding down that final spot in the top 5 for the time being. And he's doing a great job here. As we mentioned, the quick turnaround that he had from last night, and now here in position, but that's bad news for the field. Our leader in Tech Now just turned the fastest lap of this race, albeit only 5 minutes in, but with no drafting assistance, a clear track ahead. It looks as though that Tech Now is penciling himself in as the early favorite in this one, as if the quick time he set in qualifying wasn't enough.
Well, we mentioned how the slipstream, the draft, will certainly help around here. The other side of that is following a car. Sure, there's a diffuser to try and disturb some of that area in a way that actually helps the following car, but it only does so much. You're still going to have that wake, and it's difficult to get front grip when you're following a car so closely. So you saw Suzuki get right up to that McLaren the last lap around. Now he's backed off a little bit, but he's got Dave Cam and Klockner right behind. And Tony Kanaan, you mentioned him, he's right behind them. So the top 5 in a very close line right now. And if you're Suzuki, if you're Dan Suzuki, you can't get too close because you do lose some of that aero grip. If there's anybody in this field who knows about aero wash the best, it would be the driver in 5th place.
With these drivers in the front 4, front 5 positions, all running pretty similar lap times to one another, with Tech Now still the fastest, this is providing a little bit more pressure to that upcoming fuel stop. We're going to see if we got to look here. Down to the inside, here comes Cameron with the move and the fast pace exit at turn 12. They almost come together, and Cameron and Suzuki are going to continue their fight with now Klockner in the mix.
Klockner was quick to try and assist Dan Suzuki right there and give him a push. It got him back clear of Dave Cam, who really sent it there in turn 12. That's a rare place you try and pass, but it almost worked. And you saw Klockner immediately go to Dan Suzuki's aid. So great team playing there. They're certainly aware of it. Obviously, they were drafted as a team, but definitely aware of it. Even in those battles, they've got to try and race and succeed as a team. Watching these 4 Mercs now work down this quick straightaway to turn number 6. They've lost a lot of time to the first place. Tech Now in that McLaren up front as we now work through turn 7, and I'm interested where Tony might make his move, or if he makes a move at all. He's the only Samsung driver in the top 10, the only team that only has 1 driver in that top 10. You see Ashburn and Malek, they're 21st, 22nd for Samsung, and Duker is sitting there 32nd. They've got to get something going.
And so a little bit of pressure now starting to build as we approach the 10-minute mark of this race, 50 minutes in total. And one thing I'm noticing here, 3rd car in line in this battle, 4th in the race in Fabian Klockner. That car in the Mercedes-AMG, the white vehicle that's just up the road here as we ride on board, just behind the right front fender on Tony Kanaan's car. That vehicle, through the S's, has been attacking the curbs harder than anybody, and there's a little bit of risk-reward element to that. Obviously, if you upset the car too much, you're going to pay the price for it, but also, if you catch the grass that is on the far end of where the curbing is, and we see a good example of it right there, that could pitch the car towards the tire barrier pretty abruptly, but it's paying off. Look at how close he gets up to the backside of Cameron here in what is still a hot and heavy race for 3rd.
Really impressive stuff. A quick bobble there, but the only detour we've seen so far from that white Mercedes of Klockner. He's been so fast. He led practice as well, so he's got something figured out, just a little bit behind Tech Now, Suzuki, and Cameron in qualifying, it looks like. Boy, that 125 is a moving right now. He's all over the back end of Dave Cameron. The battle for 3rd place, but certainly I think the battle for the lead potentially. While Cameron has 3 bullets in the gun here in the top 10, I think Klockner, if he moves up into 3rd, that could put Dan Suzuki up top. We'll have to see how it all gets worked out later on. You see the defensive line there from Dave Cam protecting that 3rd position at the turn 10. Another battle further back. 1 driver making a move. That's the 37 of Grevin moving on past Trevor Leonard.
Grevin with a good move there at the end of that back straightaway. That's one of the first times, and it won't be the last time you see somebody be able to outbrake someone heading into that chicane. And for Grevin, it has worked out. Trying to get up there with his teammate up towards the front of the pack in Tech Now. Right now, these are the only 2 drivers for the moment who are entertaining the Balkan cam with that purple logo that you see to the left side of their name in the timing and scoring ticker. They're the 2 representatives for that team in the top 10 for now, with more help potentially coming towards the bottom portion of the field. But right now, Grevin continuing to kind of get a little bit up closer there to his teammate in Tech Now, and he's got 1 more spot here in 7th.
Watching some of these battles further back in the top 10, now on board with Matt Malone's best driver. I said at first, Samsung is the only team that only had 1 driver in the top 10. That's That's not true. We only have one driver from Matt Malone currently, and he is in 9th, and we're on board with him right now. Jack Tranter trying to get something going for Matt Malone. He's up to the back end almost of Trevor Leonard. He's almost been there in his Lamborghini Huracan, but you can see the delta bottom right of your screen, a little over a half second. But in the draft of that Mercedes, it seems like the Merc is just so much faster on these straightaways. That's got to be what's aiding them.
Yeah, and that appears to be the name of the story, especially up towards the front of the pack, where we've seen them all kind of knotted together. And it looks as though another move is trying to come here from Grevin, who's going to look on Ankerson, coming down through turns 11 and 12. This is where things get really tight off the corner. Grevin is on the move. That's 2 spots in 2 laps. Move Grevin up to 6th.
That was impressive. Almost as impressive is Klockner on by Dave Cameron. Actually, I think that might be a little more impressive. Dave Cameron was putting up a fantastic defense, but Klockner has moved on by. Cameron now got to regroup with a mirror full of Tony Kanaan. That's not easy to do.
And Kanaan stayed right there. At first, it looked like he was starting to fall back a little bit from this battle, but as they continue to shuffle around this spot, that's another Mercedes AMG that Kanaan is wheeling here, and he's got a good run here at the exit of the S's, looking low now on the right-hander at turn 6. Not going to be able to make the move here, but Klockner's trying to pull away and leave Cameron to have to fight it out with the 2013 Indy 500 winner for that 4th position. And again, that breathing room that Kanaan was able to build up in the opening few laps, it's providing him the opportunity to try a couple of different things. And I know it's not similar to that of oval racing, where you could try a different line through the corners and whatnot. Here it seems to be approach and attack to the corners and also your braking points. And you'll get a good idea here as they come down the hill. Both appear to brake at a similar portion there, both driving the same style of car. Kanaan a little bit more aggressive on the curb to the exit of the right-hander, and he's still trying to close up here on that spot for 4th and 5th respectively. So we're already working our way through the early stages of this race, and being that we've got some passing going on throughout the top 10, as I mentioned earlier before we started having a fight for 4th engaged on our hands, I believe the fact that the field is staying, we're seeing some comers, some goers, but I think we're starting to add a lot more pressure on the timing of the fuel stop that will be coming here, I assume, close to or at least a little bit after the midway point of this event.
Yeah, that fuel stop is looming for these drivers. They've got another 10 minutes to go, I would think, at least. You want to make it to that half-hour mark, being on a half load. These cars can usually go around about an hour. It depends on the circuit, and it depends on the fuel map they're in, and certainly how these cars are being driven, but usually around an hour of fuel. So a half fuel fill will put them at about 30 minutes of fuel. So there's not a whole lot of wiggle room for these drivers. Want to give a big shout out quickly to Tucson Sound Art, Race Pace Setups, Permanent Makeup and Cryo and Main, Whiplash Media, and BAM Racing Videos. But as we work minute 38 now here at Road Atlanta, watching some battles a little bit further back. Now it looks like Samsoid has dropped to 31st. We've got to check in on this guy. Sitting back here, he's actually 33rd in this number 7. I could only imagine what's gone wrong as he sits one lap down.
Interesting issue for Samsoid to have a problem of that nature, and that's also not really that good for the team in which he is teamed up with Tony Kanaan. Samsoid he's the lead operator for that series, and I should say for that team. And I'm with you. He was somebody who I thought that we would envision to be up towards the front of the field. Didn't have the best qualifying effort. You see there, started 18th and now running in that 33rd position. May have had a bit of an off-track excursion, but nevertheless, it is not the outing in which Samsoid was hoping for. And we'll see if attrition could perhaps help him cycle his way back up towards at least the top 20.
Certainly not the start that Samsoid would have wanted, sitting here in the 33rd spot at all, but a lot's been going on up front. Let's take a look at some of it as we check back in with our race leaders. Now, TK has fallen back, I would say, marginally from Klockner, but the fact that he's falling behind Klockner is different from the last time we checked in with these guys. Dave Cam has worked back in front of Fabian Klockner in that Dan Suzuki ride, so that is big for these overall standings once they're all said and done. Now the look from Klockner back up the inside of 10A. Maybe a cross under. No, it looks like Dave Cam gives that spot back up with TK behind.
I know we got a long way to go in this race, but so far this fight for 3rd, 4th, and 5th has been the best that we've had going all race long. And I would not rule out Grevin. If Grevin could find a way to close up that about 2-second, almost 3-second gap to Kanaan somehow, some way, whether it be through pit entry and exit, or maybe getting in on the in and out lap a little bit faster, I think Grevin's someone who can get up there and contest for a top 5 and try to get that team led up by the Balkan team 2 cars at least up in the top 5 to try to join that of Dan Suzuki and the other representative there with the only team that
Ooh.
has 2 cars in that. Whoa, that's a big off there for a moment there. Who was that? Was that Klockner, I think?
That is David Goodall back here in a Porsche, a brand new car to the service. Boy, that was almost very bad, right in front of a bunch of our leaders. Thankfully, doesn't catch anybody up and misses Dan Suzuki, but this is going to be troublesome with Goodall right in front of all of these guys. This could be an opening, though, for TK to move by him. It looks like he actually leans back, seeing the situation at hand. So a very veteran move there from Tony Kanaan. But you'll see Dave Cam now work to the right side. He's going to follow Klockner through. They're going to move on by that lap car. They took that in stride. That was very intelligent from these 3 drivers. Can we get a round of applause quickly, viewers? That was very intelligent and a stressful situation that could have gone awry. They sat back, they waited. A less experienced iRacer may have made that move too early or tried to make a passing opportunity when you shouldn't have. I don't know, but that could have gone awry.
I got to tip my cap to everybody in this field. I mean, everyone has really been doing a great job so far as being able to respect one another, and even the lap traffic. Every now and then when they come up to the back of a car that is having a bit of a rough day, we've seen them yield to the front runners and leaders, as in a race like this they should. And the fighting has been intense. I hope it stays this way as we get down towards the pay window. Once we get towards the point where the results are truly going to matter, starting to see a little bit of everybody here push a little bit harder. I'm not sure if that's because the fuel load is burning off. These cars are getting a little bit lighter. The handling may be starting to shift a little bit on these vehicles, but starting to see some more cars take advantage of the runoff through the S's and attacking the curb certain ways. And I think we're starting to get to that point where things may get a little bit more physical as this race unwinds.
Quickly checking in with the Grip TV number 13, Matt Malone, sitting in the 17th position currently in his Ferrari 488. He's got a miracle of James Davidson, Joe Loon out the windshield. This is actually a pretty decent run that's starting to look a little bit north for Matt Malone. This could be pretty good. He's only got to grab a few more spots, and he could really help out his very own team. He's going to need some more teamwork, though. Tranter, his only driver in the top 10, but you see Dan Bull and Verano sitting there in 11th and 12th as it looks like Matt Malone almost gets passed there by James Davidson. Couldn't quite hold it on the inside of 10A. Matt Malone gets it back and stays in front of Teague Ashburn, one of the Samsoid drivers. So there's a lot to keep in mind with all of these guys fighting in the midfield, and it's certainly working out, I would say, for now for Matt Malone. It doesn't look that bad when you consider the whole of the top 20. He's got 4 drivers in that top 20, and Vincent and Pereira are not that far back. Kopetsky might be hurting them a little bit, but really not a bad run for Matt Malone at all when you look at the entirety of the team over the course of the top 20 or so. Still out front is Technow, but working now into some lap traffic, and this is always tricky around Road Atlanta. There's so much speed to be had, but you've also got to get down to some pretty low speeds for 10A in particular. In between 2 lap cars currently, this could get a little bit tricky.
See Dan Suzuki there, not that far behind. 4th car in your picture is the runner-up in this race, while the leader in tech now is kind of wedged between 2 lap cars for the time being. So this is a rough place to catch lap traffic. That's at the exit of the chicane, and moving drivers right there was the lapper to give the leader in Tech Now the avenue by and have the preferred lane through turn 12, and that's going to benefit Tech Now in a big way. And we'll watch the margin back to Suzuki, who is yet to contest those 2 lap cars with the race for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, still knotted together as it pretty much has been, and almost contact ahead. Ooh, Suzuki thought he was going to squirt through the middle. This is costing him a lot of time here.
What a move. He's going to lose a lot of time to Klockner, but Klockner is teammate, as you see Klockner having to work through this now. But what a move from Dan Suzuki. He was looking at a 3-wide situation potentially if he was to go up the middle. He waited just long enough to go by both of them in turn 3. Wow, but now Dave Cameron side by side with TK into turn 6 with a lap car in front, and the lap car takes the racing line from Dave Cameron. TK sees that, files in behind Dave Cam, is going to wait.
This run down the back straightaway is going to be a good one. Lap traffic trying to yield. At least one car is. The other one remains in the racing line up ahead of Cameron, who holds 4th. There's Kanaan trying to draft up and get by, and that's another lapper, the purple car, just behind Kanaan as well. Still got a lap car here ahead of Cameron. We're now looking back from Eric Pereira, who is 1 lap down, and up the inside comes Cameron. Can Kanaan follow by the time to get through the chicane? He will.
Good move from Pereira to let those guys go by in turn 10A, but now he's in that position battle again, and that Mercedes falls back. These guys are all for position. I do believe all lappers. Goodall now works on by that Mercedes, and that Mercedes would be one Anthony Warthold in that number 32. And now these guys are still battling as here comes 6th place. That Lamborghini, I almost said Ferrari, that Lamborghini certainly of Ankerson has amassed himself a pretty good run. This is going to get tricky. Oh my goodness.
Still got some great racing going on here as we're 20 minutes into this 15-minute affair. Pit stop.
Oh!
Oh, that's a hard crash through the S's.
I think that may have been Dan Bull. I can't quite tell. That all happened very, very quickly. We've got to take a look back at that one. That was a big, big impact.
That was by far the biggest hit that we've had so far this race as we inch closer to the halfway point. And that was a big one. And we're going to go back and try to see who it was. Looks like it may have been one of the BMWs in the field that was coming through the S's. This is the part of the racetrack where we were saying, and that's Dan Bull. That's one of the drivers who was carrying the banner for his team at starting 14th. And no, there was a car that got off that side ahead of him, and then he bounces off, I believe, one of the lap cars.
That was a complete guess. I'm glad it was Dan. Well, I'm not glad for Dan Bull that it was Dan Bull, but I'm glad for myself that it was Dan Bull. I wasn't entirely sure. But that number 3 car, what an impact. We've got to take one more look at that if they can track him back down. Man. And that's one of those most unlucky situations. Somebody just gets a little bit offline. You've got nowhere to go. You're minding your own business there. He was riding around. It looks like, is that the 12th position or so? He was not very far back in the top 10, if at all. Yeah, he was in 12th behind 11th. As numbers work out, and one car goes right there in turn 4, and then that lapper just, that's tough to say. That's just the unfortunate part of working through lap cars in the S's at Road Atlanta. I don't think either of them did anything wrong.
The unfortunate part of that for Dan Bull was that he was just outside the top 10 at the time of that crash, carrying the banner for Matt Malone, who, as we mentioned, has not had the best of days. But the way that things have shuffled out, Malone's team now has 2 cars up into the top 10. Dan Bull was going to be one of them. Tranter has been the best of the bunch so far in this race. And now, by virtue of some of that heavy racing and the misfortune for that of Dan Bull, we've also moved Dane Verano up into the top 10 as well. So that team element still starting to shuffle up a little bit, but the best represented in the top 10, make that the top 7, 3 of the top 7 as a matter of fact, is Dan Suzuki's operation. The problem is Suzuki is 3 seconds off of the leader as we start to see a couple of cars make their way down the pit road. That was one of the back markers who's going to come in for their fuel stop as we're 3.5 minutes shy of halfway.
Well, that was actually the entry lane for the old pit road here at Road Atlanta. That was taking the old turn 12 down there. I think that was to get out of the way of these lead cars. That was Goodall who got way out of the way. I don't think we're using dual pit roads here at Road Atlanta. It should all be that one single pit road to the inside of the start-finish straightaway. We saw that actually when Nort came here. That's Tony Kanaan! TK! A massive impact in turn 5.
Trying to get it righted here, and that has been the trouble spot. The S's has been claiming some of the front runners. That's twice now. The 2 top 15 cars in the last 2 laps have had trouble, and this time it's the driver who's been one of the busiest as far as the last 16 hours, and he was running 5th. Now let's see here. As his Mercedes-AMG got loose there after attacking the curbing, goes off the track and pounds the barrier. Got significant damage to the right front, and very heads-up move there by TK not to let that car continue to roll out in front of the racing line. That would have collected a bunch of cars if he kept it rolling forward.
That's going to be extremely detrimental to Samsoid's operations here. As pit stops are starting to get underway, it looks like a few cars down the pit lane, but Mormon now the single car for Samsoid in this top 10. That's moved Wild in 10th. Tommy DeWild for Balkan into the top 10. So suddenly Balkan has a big fight here for Dan Suzuki. So a lot has certainly changed. And Dave Cameron is now the only Dave Cameron driver in that top 10. He's sitting in 4th. So boy, things are a-changing as Tony Kanaan takes that massive impact. He is in the pit lane now for service. I would imagine he'll take one of his 2 fast repairs. You see another driver. That is the VSR driver of, that would be one, Ankerson. Something's gone wrong for Ankerson.
Ankerson was a name that we were following throughout qualifying and practice as well, by virtue of the strong performances that we've seen out of the driver who carries the banner for Dave Cam. And let's try to see if we can figure out what happened to Ankerson. And I don't know, Andrew. I guess lighter fuel loads, a little bit of different handle for some of these guys, especially those who have been attacking curbing through the S's. And we're starting to see some guys make some mistakes and suffer some pretty significant damage.
Looks like we're not going to have that problem for Ankerson, unfortunately, but he has fallen out of the top 5 contention where he once ran. And he was running 6th place when those problems arose for drivers ahead. All he had to do was stay there, but I would imagine something's gone wrong with lap cars. And you're right, the fuel load's changing the balance of the cars. Now, it differs car to car, obviously. If it's fuel losing, I gotta think here. If it's losing weight in the nose or the rear, basically, depending on where that fuel tank is. Of course, if you're watching the McLaren of Tech now currently leading for Balkan, well, he's losing nose weight currently. But if you're Suzuki, if you're Klockner, if you're Dave Cam in these Mercedes, you're losing rear weight. Tony Kanaan, you're losing rear weight. You're in that Mercedes with the front engine balance. That's going to get a little bit free in certain ways. Now, in general, you don't have as much weight to slosh around. It's going to maybe tighten up, I think, an overall balance. But when you get crossed up and when the car, and this is something iRacing is interesting with, when the car decides to just kind of lean onto one corner and won't unload, which is a problem at the Daytona chicane, when one corner of the car loads and it won't unload, that tends to be a bigger problem in these Mercedes on lower fuel loads. So, only time will tell, but we've seen a few of these Mercedes, and you see Dan Suzuki get a little bit loose there in 10A. So when these cars load up weirdly, they tend to get more loose when they're on the lighter fuel load. Suzuki pits, his teammate stays on the racetrack in front of Cameron, and yeah, we're going to see this pit stop certainly take form.
And it's coming right at the halfway point. We're 25, just under 25 minutes to go in this 50-minute race. And I will tell you, one thing I just noticed, that even though I misread the pit entry the last time, I think I made that same mistake on a prior broadcast here as well, so my bad on that one. But one thing I've noticed, the pit entry lane here at Road Atlanta is no cakewalk. I mean, you are coming down the hill, it narrows up, there are protective barriers on each side. You could gain a lot of time coming through there. You could lose a lot of time coming through there. You could lose a race car coming through there. So that's something else we're going to have to keep our eye on. How many of these guys are practicing their pit entry and exits here at Road Atlanta? Because this is one of the tougher ones for sure.
Looking now at Slaven Persina. Now, this is Balkan. This is Balkan, and this number 28 representing his team. We're taking the cockpit view to see exactly what he would be seeing if you're watching his stream on Twitch. This is the view that you've got. He is going to have to pit this lap. I actually have his stream up on my other monitor. I can see his fuel level is low. May not necessarily be this lap, but it's going to be soon. That's what these drivers are contending with, and that fuel level low marker comes up in front of the virtual tachometer that you see with the blue bar going across for revs. So that's where he's got that red bar is saying fuel level low. He's got to pit very, very soon in this Mercedes. Balkan, though, getting up here, he's now in the top 10. He's got 4 drivers currently, amidst pit stops, admittedly. 4 drivers in this top 10, and a lot of drivers coming in. Dave Cameron, one of them.
This is, we've hit the time now where a lot of the front runners and even pretty much the bulk of the field is going to come down for this one and only fuel load service. We see Jack Tranter, who has been incredible so far here today for Matt Malone's camp. Also, we have Yannick Mormon coming in as well, just in front. Dane Verano, also from Matt Malone and their company. So it appears as though there is a little bit of teamwork that is taking place, or at least organization, or this is just how the timing of this fixed setup, this racetrack has worked out for these drivers having to come down now, because pit road is a very, very busy place, and we still await our leader in Tech now.
And look at all of the purple in the top 10. Clearly, Balkan has got a plan. Balkan is going late in this race. The only 2 drivers that are not in the top 10 right now are, well, actually, Carter's now dropping back. I think he just pitted. All of these guys now suddenly pitting. It looks like it's hard to say. We do kind of sometimes lose render across the massive racetrack. That's what I was going for. But you see Tech now pitting. I think this is a move from all of Balkan to come in at this point. You see Klockner now in as well for Dan Suzuki. I think this is as far as these guys could go. 22 minutes left. That's about 38 minutes into the race.
Question now becomes that once all said and done and the dust settles with about 20 minutes to go, what is that top 10 going to look like? Granted, we know that Tech now has been the dominator of this race, but we're also keeping an eye on what team is doing the best. And you hit the nail on the head there, Andrew. I mean, the fact that whole group was able to stay out as long as they have and now populate 5 of the top 6 spots, with right now Klockner being the only variable there in third. That's going to shuffle once these stops have completed, but everyone is starting to come in here, including Balkin, who they've got something figured out for sure.
Balkin in for his stop. It doesn't look like he's got any optional repairs. Checking in on his stream. So this is actually a fantastic thing we get to utilize. The fact that I can look over and see that he does not have optional repairs. He's kept that car clean. That is so important to save time, not only in the pits, but also on the racetrack. If you've got some damage, that might hold you up by a few hundredths, but that will certainly amass over time. So a fantastic job by Balkin to keep his car clean. His driver was leading the race the entire way so far. We'll see what Technow can do on the far side of these pit stops. Everybody getting sorted out, and it looks like Technow now retaking that race lead. He is in, no, not quite. He will retake it from Grevin, though, this time by who's pitting.
Grevin, who has been one of the cars that has moved its way up, and I'm hoping that Tim could kind of gain some time here. Now, remember, he was running at about the 6th spot in that second pack, and then Tony Kanaan had the big off, and then the pit stops happened, so we haven't really gotten ourselves an idea as to how well Grevin is exactly running. We're going to find out here real soon, though. It's going to be one of the last cars to come down. You see Technow 22 seconds back, so that delta is definitely going to shift and give Technow the lead back. But where does Grevin blend up in traffic, and what does that do for that team? We're going to find out here in just a few moments.
So Grevin in the pit lane, losing some spots now, of course, now that he's in the pit lane, but he'll roll off and away, and he should blend back in around the 5th, 6th position. We'll see exactly how it works out. I do also want to mention, this is a fantastic paint scheme. A big shout out to whoever painted this for Linus Technow, and if you're in the stream chat, by all means, let us know who you are. I want to give you mad props here. This is a fantastic, I love the metallic blue. That's a metallic blue you might only see on Rocket League, and in fact, that's a metallic blue that I've gone for in Rocket League before, so that is a fantastic. I love the contrast with the matte along the door as Technow retakes the lead.
Now goes to the point. Now we've got Klockner in second over Suzuki, so that may have been a little bit of a seesaw there amongst teammates throughout the cycle of pit stops. Cameron still fourth, and Grevin in the top 5 after Tony Kanaan held that spot for the first half of this race before his off coming through the S's and catching the tire barriers. So a little bit of subtle changes throughout the front 5. Also looks as though that Suzuki's team is the ones who are holding down the fort throughout the front half of the field with a little bit of luck, hopefully trying to come the way of Tommy DeWild, who is running in 10th. He too representing the Balkin team. So 2 different streaming operations making up 3 separate drivers in the top 10 spots. And right now the one that is trying to come back a little bit is that operation with Samsoid, who was only represented by 1 car. They did have Kanaan up there, but that off has put them down, and their entire fate kind of resting on Moorman's hands for the time being.
Yeah, it's not looking great for Samsung right now. I think their best bet of things was for TK to hold on to that position inside the top 10. He's fallen to 14th, which is actually not that bad given the circumstances. He's recovered pretty nicely. He's in behind Trevor Leonard and Balkin, actually. This could be an interesting battle as one of Samsoid's best drivers comes up behind Balkin here in these closing stages. Watching along with Samsoid, actually, he's riding in, it looks like, the 25th position. We mentioned things didn't go right for him towards the start, and yeah, it's just not looking quite good. And you know what? I want to give a big shout out. I just flipped over to Samsoid's stream, and Modulus Prime mentions that it's all resting on Yannick's hands. Uh-oh. So 17 and a half minutes thereabouts here at Road Atlanta. Things are kind of working out. We're starting to see exactly the lay of the land and how things are going to work out in this one. Technow still leading. He's got a 5-second and change gap back to Suzuki, Klockner, and Cameron. Grevin, another 6 seconds or so back. Hrushka sits back there in 6th. The top 10 is really spread out. This is something we've not been used to in this race so far, Eric. Seeing a spread out top 10. The only constant that we've seen is these 3 battling.
You know, we kept talking about the fact that in practice and qualifying, top 10 were separated by 0.5 of a second. Top 20 was separated by about a second or so, second and a half back to 26. I mean, it was crazy. Now as the runs go on, we also started to see a little bit of attrition take place. We've seen a lot of drivers have problems right here through the S's, the most difficult part of this racetrack. And we've also seen, really, Linus Technow just dominate. I mean, the lead at first was about a second and a half, got up to 3 seconds, now 5 seconds, but that has not slowed down this battle. Suzuki, Klockner, Cameron, these 3 have been tied together at the hip all race long. And what I'm looking forward to is seeing the handle change yet again as we get towards the tail end of the fuel run. I mean, these guys were pretty much forced to pit at about the 25, 23 minute to go mark because they were pretty much almost out. So that shift in handling where these cars got a little bit tougher to drive, tougher to handle, tougher to control, it's going to happen again at the end of this race, and it's going to happen at a time where it matters most. And I'm really looking forward to watching this evolve, especially with some of these races we've got going on throughout the top 10 and throughout the field.
Got to move from TK. He's working to the right side of Balkan down to turn 10A. Tony Kanaan working on Balkan. He went wide there in 10A to try and get a look. Couldn't quite make it happen. Now files right back in behind the 28 car. You saw Leonard look up the inside for a moment of Tony Kanaan. Couldn't quite make a stick, so Kanaan holds on to 13th spot. And this is kind of now resting on his hands as well. If he can get some spots back, this might not work out all that poorly for Sam Sawyer. The problem that's working against every single team, though, is the fact that there are 4 Balkan drivers, including Balkan, in the top 10, and we've just seen a problem, it looks like, potentially, for another Samsoy driver. It looks like just a late pit stop. He may have had to take a pit stop earlier on. I do want to highlight that Matt Malone is now into 14th. Matt is working up through this field. I said it earlier, if he just sits back and continues working his way through this field, he could be pretty good, pretty well off by the end of this race, and he's doing exactly that in 14th now.
I'm not exactly sure what happened to Jack Tranter, but he was the one who was carrying the banner from Malone in his camp, and he was up there in the top 10, and now he seems to be shown 30th, 1 lap down. So I'm not exactly sure what happened to Tranter. Unfortunately, Malone is the one who's being able to reap a bit of a reward by picking up some positions there, but just when we thought Malone was going to get up there and join Tranter in the top 10, Tranter has a problem, and now Verano is the highest running out of that camp.
Well, let's find out what happened to Tranter. Now, I'm glad you mentioned him. That's who I was looking for. You see what happens there in turn 12, and I can't help but laugh. It's almost akin to Bathurst with the jump off of Conrad, but I've never quite seen something like that. I think he just catches grass here on the outside curbing. Yeah, he just catches grass. I just missed the turn in for turn 12. I can't help but laugh at that. I feel bad for Matt Malone and Jack Tranter, but that's the only reaction I can give to that one. Oh, my goodness.
Almost cleared the double jump and went over the fencing there. I mean, that reminds me of what we used to do at Sonoma Raceway in the old NR 2003 days, where you'd hit those ramps coming up through turns 2 and 3. Hey, if you're going to go out, you might as well make it spectacular. Unfortunate for Matt Malone and his company, and especially unfortunate there for Jack Tranter, who went for that wild ride, but it's allowed Malone to move up to now 13th position. And how about that top 10? We're looking at some of the teams here, and I thought that Dan Suzuki was going to lay claim to the best of the bunch as far as being in that top 10, but it looks as though that we're starting to see Balkan and company get up there. Balkan himself running in 10th for the moment. We've got 4 of them represented in that top 10 for now.
Watching along board with Marie Hrushka. We're going to go with that pronunciation for now. Currently in 6th. You see, she started 16th. This is big. We talked about her earlier on, sitting back there and, again, being methodical, much like Matt Malone. Well, she's almost to the top 5, and she's closing in on Grevin. This could be big if she can move a Balkan driver back, especially for Dan Suzuki. With the heavy weight for Dan Suzuki towards the top end of the field, if she can get 5th place, that is going to be huge towards trying to give Dan Suzuki the win. It's going to be tough, though. Even Balkan now moving into that top 10, it's going to be tough to upset that Balkan operation.
This has been pretty entertaining here, and when we got the list of drivers and pros that were on Dan Suzuki's operation, Harushka was one of them that really jumped out right away, and it's been fun to watch Marie work her way up towards the position where I credited Grevin as being one of the biggest movers in the field, but I think Harushka could take over that title whether or not Marie makes this pass. And as you can see, that gap is closing, and I love this onboard shot that we got here down the straightaway. A little bit of a slipstream effect here, getting onto or up to the chicane, and you see how much later Harushka gets on the binders, makes up about 2 car lengths there on the brakes, and with 12 minutes to go, this fight's going to continue on here as they come back up onto the main straightaway.
In case you're wondering, we've still got Dave Cameron and Klockner all over one another. We're watching some other battles throughout the top 10. Dane Verano, it looks like, has got a mirror full of Tommy DeWild as well. This is another thing that could really mess up the top 10 for some drivers. Verano, the best of the bunch for Matt Malone. Tommy Wild trying to further the dominance so far for Balkan, and this is recent dominance as well. This is dominance from going late in the pit cycle and just keeping their cars on the racetrack, more importantly. importantly, we've seen drivers from several operations have issues in these latter stages, most of the mid stages, honestly, even TK having a problem in turn 5. Given the fact that these guys have had all of these problems, Balkan isn't, I think that's easily going to go the way of Balkan. The only problem is, it seems like Balkan is either doing really well or kind of poorly. You see Carter, Constantine, and one other driver waiting on the name to come back around towards the very bottom of the standings. You see Goodall there in 34th. Some of those guys that are picking up mid-pack points may pay off for them, and it could bring a challenge to Balkan. You got to keep in mind, not just the guys that are dominating, but also the guys in the midfield. And Matt Malone, Dave Cameron, taking up a lot of that midfield could pay off. Only time will tell. We don't know exactly, but I would have to imagine that Balkan probably still has that leg up. They just need to be mindful of their advantage.
Yildirim being one of the first cars out for Suzuki there in 36th spot. I mean, that too is something that could hinder the overall standings of that team as well. So I love this format. This is, like we said on the intro and the lead into this, this is so unique. And Samsoid is apparently not going to make it to the end here. So I'm not sure if this is going to be a sign of things to come potentially for those who've been pushing hard. But that's a bad situation going worse for the driver and the organization right now, is one car up into potentially two, though, as Tony Kanaan could end up getting the comeback of the race award. It's hard to believe that car came to a complete stop after getting into the tire barrier in the S's. He's worked his way back up to 11th and may not necessarily be done yet. He's still pressing pretty hard here.
But he's got to move Balkan out of this top 10, and this is something a lot of the Twitch viewers are watching. I would have to imagine that if he can move Balkan out of that top 10, and if Leonard can potentially follow, that could put the advantage back the way of Dan Suzuki. Dan Suzuki's got 3 of the top 6. He's got 2nd, 4th, and 6th respectively. And if all of those positions hold, and if TK can move on by Balkan, that could really change things up. And that, I don't know, that could even out the playing field just a little bit. Suzuki's going to need Joe Loon, though, to move up some positions as well, who sits 13th behind this battle. It still looks like it's going the way of Balkan, but this could be the step, well, a step in the right direction for Dan Suzuki, honestly, if the Samsoid driver of TK can work on by Balkan. And he might do it.
Right. That's a good run there off the chicane. Now trying to get to the inside of turn 12. We've seen about 2 passes made here today. Oh, they almost come together off the corner. TK with the edge.
Wow, that is an Indy 500 champion knowing his stuff. And he's not just an oval racer, he is a road racer as well. He ain't no slouch, and that might take pass of the day, not only because of the fantastic fashion in which it happened, but the implications it could have.
And again, I am flawed at the fact that Kanaan has been able to work his way back up into a top 10 spot, considering the fact that that car not only got into the barrier, but came to a complete stop, fell back to about 16th or 17th, and he has been able to methodically pick his way forward and now has himself up into the top 10. I don't know if he's going to have a chance. He might be able to get up there and mix it up with his teammate in Mormon. I'm not sure if they're going to get up to Wild, who runs 8th with 8 minutes to go here, 8.5 minutes to go. A 10-second gap is going to be really hard to make up, but we're at that point now, Andrew, where we're going to start to see some of these guys slipping and sliding more so than they have during this stint, and he might see a couple of guys bite the dust up ahead of him, similar as he did at the midpoint of this race.
Watching on board with Tony Kanaan still as he looks back, it's Samsoid, and oh my goodness, or sorry, not Samsoid, Balkan. Balkan got close. He's got to watch the braking zones. I think these guys have all got to watch the braking zones on these older tires. The ABS, depending on where they have it, could slip a little bit. They could push into the driver in front of them. Oh boy, that was a little bit close. That kind of got my blood pumping. Joe Loon, sitting back here in the 13th position currently, has got to move forward, I think. I've been watching some of these battles kind of take place throughout the field, and Joe Loon could really benefit things for Dan Suzuki if Joe could just get up there a little bit closer to Leonard and potentially work on by that 12th position car. It's going to be close. I do want to mention Annie Rabbits is starting to make a comeback. Now, I mentioned Annie way down the running order towards the start of this race. She had a problem earlier on. Now she lets some lead cars go on by there in that straightaway from turn 5 to turn 6. Well, she's up to 21st, 22nd or so. 22nd, it looks like. After starting 30th, a lot has gone wrong, clearly. She's a couple of laps down, but she's getting some very, very important points right now for Dan Suzuki further back in this field. And we talk about a lot of these streamers in this race. She is one of them representing Dan Suzuki. It's kind of interesting how the streamers have worked streamers into their fields.
And I got to say, I really want to tip my cap to everybody involved in this North American Racing League Streamers Championship, because this is a 50-minute race. shortly after sunrise here on the East Coast. We're in the Eastern time zone here in the States, both Andrew and I. And this race has gone by so quick because we've had 36 incredibly talented sim racers and real racers as well taking part in this event with so many storylines to follow. The team element is fascinating. The pace has been incredible. The pitch strategy has been engulfing as far as entertainment and things to watch, keep an eye on. We've had comers, goers. We've had drivers come back from problems. I really wasn't quite sure what to expect with a race of this nature here on Pit Stop TV, and I am loving it. I can't get enough of it, and I can't believe we only got 6 minutes to go.
This has been fantastic. A fantastic event. I was kind of unsure, honestly, when our contact for the series told us we're going to be broadcasting at 10 in the morning on a Sunday, but I'm glad we're doing it. I'm glad we're here. This has been a fantastic event. Certainly a lot to keep up with. I like that you're covering a lot of the different storylines throughout this race, such as Marie Hruska. She's gotten by for 5th place. This is important. This is very important. This could swing things the way of Dan Suzuki potentially. Watching the way things that work out, this could be big. That might be pass of the race number 2 then for Marie Hruska, working up by Tim Grevin. Dane Verano, the best for Matt Malone, and Verano sits back there, the other end of the straightaway in 7th. Tommy DeWild sits in 8th. Yannick Mormon in 9th. And you can see Tony Kanaan is starting to make up time on Yannick. So TK could still work up into the top 9, while Balkan's got a mirror full of Trevor Leonard.
Leonard is starting to look a little bit low there in turn number 1. I have to wonder if Kanaan can get to Mormon, how rough is it going to be there, considering the fact that they're pretty much carrying the banner for the Samsoid operation at this point. With 5 minutes to go, you certainly don't want to tangle with your teammate, but Kanaan appears to be a tick quicker for sure after having what looked to be at least a 5th place car at one point in this race. But this fight behind them is really starting to intensify as well, just outside the top 10. And there's that curb hopping we were talking about in the latter stages of this one here. These guys are really starting to push hard through the S's. That's caught a couple of cars off guard already today. We may have 1 or 2 more have some problems there because obviously the pay window is approaching. The top 10 is just up ahead for these two, and time is running out. Less than 4.5 minutes to go.
And these two drivers, a little further forward, have been all over one another since the start of the race. The drop of the green flag and Dave Cam, Klockner, and Suzuki have been battling since then, but Klockner's starting to fall back, and we've seen these two actually reverse positions a few times, Eric. I thought Klockner at one point had the position gained for 3rd place over Dave Cameron. That's certainly not the case, and Hruska looks like it's starting to close in a little bit. Still got 6 seconds to go. I don't think she's going to get there, but certainly closing in nonetheless.
I'm happy that we're going to have a fight for what could be a podium spot here in the late stages of this one, because Tech now broke out in front and has pretty much been able to mine. Looked like there was a crash up in front of these drivers. That had to be one of the back markers of the field that got into the wall before that corner at turn 6. But this race, though, is starting to intensify, and Klockner is really going to try to get up and around Cameron to give that Dan Suzuki team 2 out of the top 3 spots. And we mentioned they're sitting pretty 3 of the top 5 right now, but it would be nicer if they can kick Cameron back 1 position. But Cameron has done an amazing job here today for sure, representing his own sim team. Unfortunately, though, he is the only car up in the top 10 for now, with Leonard trying to find a way in from 12th with about 3 minutes to go. Yeah,
Ankerson's problem earlier on, I think, really handicapped Dave Cam. I think that was likely probably the drop in the bucket that did it for Dave Cam. You've got Trevor Leonard sitting in 13th, putting pressure on Balkan. I just don't know that it's going to work out for him, as I don't know. Don't think it's going to work out, unfortunately, for Dave Cam's team. I'm thinking, with 2.5 minutes to go just about, that Dan Suzuki might have this, honestly. Looking at the way things round out in the top 5, as you're seeing the ticker kind of move around, that's just drivers rendering and de-rendering. The iRacing sim is weird about that sometimes, and moving around and scoring, but I assure you it's not moving around quite as viciously as it might appear. What I can tell you is Suzuki, as you said, Eric, has 2nd, 4th, and 5th. That's 3 of the top 5. With that weight for Dan Suzuki's team, I think that pass for Hruska might have done it.
And that's been an amazing drive for Marie Hruska there to get up into that top 5. And, got one off here in front of Hruska. That's coming
Eric,
through
that's
turn
Reiser.
5. Yeah, so that was
Carrera.
Reiser who, Carrera, who Hruska was catching at the time. Grevin, though, is not letting Arushka get too far out in front, though. I think Grevin is well aware of the significance of that battle. It may not be a total shift as far as the team standings are concerned once the math is calculated, but I believe Grevin is well aware of what's at stake. Also, I think Grevin wants to walk out of here with a top 5, and he's only going to have a couple more laps to try and do it, and he's staying about 2 car lengths off the backside of Arushka and the Lamborghini.
So with a minute and a half to go, we can only do so much speculation. What I do want to do is recap each of the 5 streamers leading their teams today and leading their operations quickly. We'll go through them, and we're going to lead off with Sam Sawyer sitting back here in the 27th position. Certainly not the run that he wanted, but the team isn't looking too bad now. A couple of orange markers in that top 10. Things are starting to look up. Might not be for the win, but certainly better than they were earlier on in this race. He runs 27th. If you move up, let's see. Looks like the next one we'll get to is going to be Matt Malone sitting here in the 14th position, started 17th. He has made up a few spots since the start of the race, methodically working through things down to the final minute. Not looking too bad overall for Matt Malone. And those Pit Vipers, they are fantastic. Go over to his stream if you want to see what I'm talking about. Looking pretty good there for Matt Malone. Sitting in the 12th spot, just a couple of positions up the road, is Balkan here in the 28 car. And Slavin has certainly worked a pretty good team into this race. 3 of the top 10. It might not be enough for the win, but it's certainly going to be a very impressive run nonetheless. Of course, further up, you've got Dave Cameron sitting in the 3rd position. We've now got final lap, top of your ticker. That means white flag for these drivers. They've just taken that white flag. Dave Cameron takes it in 3rd, right behind Dan Suzuki. So this 2nd, 3rd, 4th battle has been all over one another since the start, but it looks like Klockner's starting to fall back, and Dave Cameron can finally breathe. Oh, Suzuki, a slight misstep there. He's got to be careful. Cameron's not that far back.
Cameron is about 1.5 seconds off in arrears there, but the story today has been that of Linus Technow. Unbelievable job for Technow and company, representing Balkan quite well here. And ever since the drop of the green, he's been able to keep the nose clean, keep that car out of trouble, navigate the lap traffic to perfection, and he is less than a half lap away from the win here at the Virtual Road Atlanta for the North American Racing League Streamers Championship. And I don't think you could have a more perfect day on this platform, on this style of track, than what Technow is about to wrap up if he could survive the final 3 corners.
He took the pole. Started first, of course. He's going to finish first as long as things go right in the final couple of corners. He's led every single lap aside from the pit cycle. He has been out front all day long. The driver to beat, the number 36 for Balkan, it's Linus Technow. He wins at Road Atlanta. We've got to wait for the overall team scoring, though. Dan Suzuki will come through the final corner. He will finish 2nd. A big tip of the cap to Dan. Dave Cameron in 3rd. Another big tip of the cap to him. Klockner's going to take 4th. Looks like Grevin should come through to 5th. Oh, a side-by-side battle. And Grevin punts Hrushka off the racetrack a little bit, but all's fair in love and war. What a battle to the line.
It was pretty tough there for the final spot in the top 5.
Oh, my goodness. Whoa. Whoa, actually, Joe Loon, a big whoa. Joe Loon is currently scored in the top 10. Hang on. Okay, that just adjusted. We're waiting on things to file in, and the scoring will soon become official. I don't know what just happened across the start-finish line, but drivers coming across the line, finishing things up. It looks like things will hold. Joe Loon won't move into the top 10. For a moment, I saw a lot more Dan Suzuki logos than I'd initially imagined, but what we do know is Linus Technow takes the win. I can't believe what just happened on the front stretch. Shall we take a replay?
Please.
I'm not even sure who that was. I think it was Grevin that got sent to space. Do we know if he's landed yet? I'm honestly not sure. So Tim Grevin, we've got to find out what happened to come to the line anyways. So hopefully this replay will come back up for us here momentarily. This is the battle with Marie Hrushka. This is actually very, very important. This kicks Hrushka for Dan Suzuki back to 6th place. Whenever it loads back up for us, we'll get a look at this. We'll at least get the look coming down the hill. Here we go. This is 10B up into 11, and they're going to come down to turn 12. Somewhere here, you see Grevin up the inside. What a move! I said Marie's pass might have been pass for the race number 2. That might have been pass for the race number 3. That was heads up from Grevin.
Yeah, and then unfortunately here, Looks as though Grevin's about to get ramped.
Oh my goodness. Sent to space. Who was that got him? Was that Tom? That was Tommy DeWild. You know what? Let's get him on board. Oh man.
The Wild looked to be having fun coming to the checkers. He was flashing the lights a little bit on the front nose of that car, and I think he knew exactly what he was doing. And this should be fun.
I love iRacing. I really do, and I love the drivers on it. I really do I've gotta thank everybody in the field. That was, oh my goodness, especially Tommy DeWild. Tommy, if you go back and watch this, thank you. Thank you so much. That was amazing. We're going to take a step aside. We'll take our customary post-race break. We're going to get interviews lined up. Don't go anywhere. We've got a lot to check in with these drivers, a lot on the way post-race, and it's all coming to you here live on Pit Stop TV. The first annual Streamers Championship is just wrapped up. Scoring and interviews on the way.
Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your best self? Your smile is the first feature noticed in the interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence.
Sound Art introduces an entirely new way to listen to music in your home. By combining the best of two products, a revolutionary high-fidelity, low-profile Bluetooth wireless speaker with beautiful artwork. Select from a library of artwork or upload your own photos to personalize your experience. Sound Art ushers in an era of invisible, beautiful, and amazing sound throughout your home and redefines your entire entertainment system. The need to reclaim your floor space and rid your home of unsightly speaker boxes that need to be bolted to the wall is now a thing of the past. Our canvas is printed on high-quality permalite by Breathing Color. And select from our gallery or upload your own. Standard sizes include 16 by 20 and 18 by 24 canvas wrapped. Custom sizing is available, as well as surround sound options.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
Welcome back to the virtual Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. We just witnessed one of the best spectacles in sim racing. I can't believe it. The way that things finished up, the battle is coming to the line that are going to change the team standings for the better for some and the worse for the others. I can't wait to see how things get scored. We don't quite yet know who's going to come out on top. We're going to give series admins quite some time to figure this out, so we're going to sit back and we're going to get some post-race interviews and some post-race thoughts, of course, in here at Pit Stop TV. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, this bright and early Sunday morning, at least here in the States. If you're watching internationally, a big special thank you for tuning in as well, and hopefully you guys stick around for what is to come. We've got a lot that's just gone on in this race. You can follow along with all of our social media updates at these platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. We're everywhere. You've got to follow along. Some fantastic photos put out there by Trey Shuttlesworth to cover this race. That said, we're going to move straight into it. We've got 50 minutes of racing out of the way. It's time to talk to some of our drivers. And we've first, I think, got to move on to one Dave Cameron. It looks like we don't quite have everybody in just yet, but we do have the driver of the 786, and he came to the line in fantastic fashion. Dave Cameron, it was a fantastic run for your team. Maybe not quite for the overall win, but certainly a pretty good run, at least in that 786 today. How'd it go?
Oh, it was a great race, that one. Kind of caught up at the beginning. There was loads of things going on. Then the next thing I know, I've got Tony Kanaan in my rearview mirror, putting the pressure on. It was intense for about the first 20 minutes, and then things kind of settled down and got into a rhythm, and then it was just trying to tick off the laps and stay out of trouble.
What was that like, having an Indianapolis 500 winner bear down on you in the early stages of this race and able to hold him off?
Thankfully, I've raced against Tony a few times, and I know that, he's a racer. That's what he is. And you can tell, real racers race different to sim racers, and he makes it uncomfortable. That's for certain.
Absolutely. He puts that pressure on you in ways that you wouldn't know can be done. So let's talk about the team aspect today. Certainly you've gone through, you've gathered, I would imagine, a lot of your sim racing, maybe teammates, friends, other streamers as well. Tell us about your team and tell us about how you think you did.
Good. I think we did good. I wanted there to be a wide range of experience. I didn't want to field a team of ringers where we'd get low lap times. I wanted this to be open to my whole community, just to open the doors really to these events that I'm privileged to take part in, but not everybody is. So I just really wanted to open the door to members of the community and let them experience what I get to experience quite regularly now. So that's so cool.
And you mentioned the community, and community is certainly a massive aspect of sim racing. Do you get these kinds of opportunities very often? I'm sure this is probably pretty rare to bring in parts of your community, people who watch your streams, people who I would imagine come up possibly throughout the years on sim racing, thinking of you as this big bad guy that they look up to. How important is that to you as a streamer to connect with your community?
Massively. I mean, the reason I do this YouTube thing is it's a bit of a cliche and a bit corny, but I do want to give something back. I want to help people, and I don't see myself as any different to anybody else out there. Yeah, I've got this YouTube audience, but that is it. I'm just a sim racer like anybody else. So yeah, it's all about trying to give back and get people involved and race with people that you wouldn't normally race with because of the splits on iRacing. So that's what it's all about for me. It's just trying to get involved and race with guys that you don't normally race with.
And how about lining up on the same row as Dan Suzuki? I'm sure that was probably pretty pressure-filled on that first lap, and then battling with him as the race went on. It seemed like he had just the upper edge. What do you think that was? What do you think gave him that edge over you in this race?
Well, I mean, me and Dan, we've raced against each other a few times, and I've mentioned it before. Dan is one of the guys on iRacing that I would quite happily trade paint with and race door-to-door with. I know he's super safe. Fabian, is Fabian a teammate of Dan's? I don't know. There was a nice little buffer there between me and Dan for a period of time. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, Fabian was one of Dan's drivers, and that battle watching with you guys and trying to keep points in mind, I think that added to things certainly. How much of that were you aware of? Did you know who was on what team?
I didn't have a clue, but I guessed pretty much straight away that Fabian was on Dan's team. And to be fair, that's team racing. That's the way it goes. And Fabian did a tremendous job for Dan there. He did an absolutely sterling job keeping me at bay. But yeah, so it's all it's all good. That's team racing, and he did it perfectly.
It works out pretty nicely. A podium overall out of 35 drivers is pretty impressive. Buddy, I gotta ask, Where can people follow along with you? Where can our viewers follow you? Where can they buy merch potentially? Where can they find Dave Cameron?
Oh, everywhere really. Find me on YouTube, Dave Cam on YouTube, on Twitter @Davey_Cam. Search for me on Facebook, you'll see me on there. I've got my own Discord service. Everything's normally listed in the description of my video, so just check out one of those and you'll find me somewhere.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on a very impressive run, keeping things in the top 3, keeping things clean, more importantly. Fantastic day. Glad you were here. Glad you were in the field. Thank you so much for it.
No, guys, thanks for the invite. Absolute pleasure to be part of.
Dave Cameron taking home a 3rd place finish. Impressive. There's no other way to put it. I think certainly impressive here from Dave Cameron. Kept that car clean. Very, very good day for him. We're going to hand things over to the one, the only Eric Brennan, as we've got, it looks like the next down the list. We don't have Zan Suzuki quite yet, so the next down the list would be Matt Malone. Boy, I'm going to be jealous of you with that one. Matt Malone, who finished 13th.
Thanks a lot, Andrew. And Matt Malone and his company, boy, it looked really, really good at one point when you had Jack Tranter carrying the banner for you guys. We saw Dan Bull go off. Overall, how would you rate not only your performance today, but the teams as a whole? Because you had a great group of all-stars kind of assembled for this one, and it was fun. It was entertaining. May not have been exactly what you were looking for there, but how much fun did you guys have, and how do you rank how the team performed today?
Oh, I think as far as the team it goes, our team was very diverse. You know, we had some BMWs, we had some Ferraris and some Mercs. You know, so I think that's what really brought it together, and it showed the full spectrum of what can really be possible out there on the racetrack. But as far as how we did, you know, some things didn't go as well as others. You know, we had a couple issues. Jack's wheel disconnected, but I think overall we had guys up front, we had guys in the middle. You know, I was pretty much in the middle there, and we were trying to work together best we could. We were talking fuel strats and stuff, but what a fun! I've never raced a particular race like this with the way it was set up with teams and multi-car, you know, teams and stuff like this. It was a whole different dynamic, what I'm used to. And I'm telling you what, this was a lot of fun, so intense, and you really want to try hard. You know, you're really focused. You don't want to let the team down. And I had an absolute blast, man. That was so much fun.
And I wanted to ask you, you know, being that you're one of the streamers that were highlighted throughout our broadcasts, and how much, you know, were you focusing solely on your ability to put the best result in possible, or were you kind of really preoccupied with maybe keeping pace with how everybody else was doing? Racing is oftentimes, especially sim racing, it's a team sport, but usually it's more individualized where you're solely focused on your race, your day, your strategy. Was that different given this dynamic?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Like, yes, you still have to focus on your race and go as fast as you possibly can, and there's that focus too, but you got your relative up and you're trying to keep tabs of where your teammates are. At the start of the race, my teammate was in front of me, so I'm thinking, okay, I'm not really going to challenge him too much. We're going to let the race play out a little bit, and then behind me, I'm going to be defending like hell to keep the guy behind me from getting closer to my teammate. So there is that team dynamic. But yes, you still have to focus on your race, but then also you're keeping tabs on what your teammates are doing as well. So that made it a lot of fun.
Now, you're very active on the platform, whether it be on your Twitch stream, your YouTube stream. I mean, just 4 days ago, you were streaming an event from this very racetrack in a GT3 car. How much practice were you able to get with the drivers that you were aligned with today? Or was that opportunity not really totally prevalent due to the fact that everybody's kind of involved in so much when it comes to whether it be the streaming side or the sim side?
Yeah, there was a couple of practice sessions that not necessarily, we didn't all go join a practice server together, but the guys just kind of individually practiced last week, and then, you know, a little prep time before the stream today, and then we had a full hour of practice before, and then we're kind of bouncing on strategies off each other as far as how far do we get before we got to pit, you know, what's our fuel going to do, you know, this and that and the other thing. So yeah, it's just practice when you can and show up for race day.
I agree with something that you put out on Twitter, that this format was incredible. I think it's a great way, as you mentioned, taking your words to put the community together. I've actually checked out some of your stuff as of late in preparation for this event, but if you can, just advise everyone where they can capture some of your content and follow along and all that you have going on, because you certainly know how to be informational and entertaining, and it's a blast for me to watch you. But tell everybody else how they can catch you and all the different disciplines that you're involved in to help share this incredible world of sim racing.
Yep, head on over to Twitch, just Matt Malone, and then everything else is Matt Malone TV. And if you just Google Matt Malone racing, and I'm kind of everywhere. I do have a TikTok, Matt Malone TV. I have like 50 followers. I haven't posted a video yet, so I'm trying to get to at least 10,000 followers on TikTok before I release my big premiere video on TikTok. It's going to be great.
So we'll do all the weekend to try to help drum up some steam for that there, because I know it's going to be great, because all of your stuff is incredible. Thank you for all you do, Matt. I mean, this is it's a great sport. It's great involvement. It's a great barrier to entry for anyone who loves motorsports. And it's because of all the streamers like you and everyone we had take part in this event that the word is really getting out there and the love of the sport just continues to grow. So thank you all so much for everything. And great job today with you and your team. May not have been the exact result you were hoping for, but as you mentioned, the box is checked. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks to you guys. You guys did a great job. Another professional broadcast. Appreciate it.
We appreciate that, Matt, and hopefully we'll be talking to you again soon. That's Matt Malone, everybody, and again, check him out because he's guaranteed to keep you entertained and informed. I'm going to turn it back over to Andrew Cardinale IV, who will be talking to our next streamer from today's field.
And we've only got to go one position back to find Balkan, and this was a fantastic battle to watch with Balkan and Matt Malone. Balkan, first off, got to ask you, how did you put your team together, and how do you think you did?
I just kind of asked randomly people in my Discord who wants to join in, and then I just pulled I did like a marble random pick of 3 people that needed to. Anyways, there was not a lot of people that signed up, so it kind of made my job a lot easier. And yeah, my team won the race, so I'm actually happy for that. Good job for them. I didn't do so well, but you know.
Hey, well, you had a fantastic battle with Matt Malone. What was that like? Obviously, you know that he's got his viewers and his fans, and you were going right up against him. And I believe he passed you there in the latter stages. What was that battle like? And did you have points in mind, or was it just go out there and get everything you could?
I do most of my races, just try my best and have fun out there. Really, I kind of hit Malone there on. I was trying to pass Samson and yeah, I went a little too late on the brakes and ended up hitting him. And hopefully he can accept my apology. But my battle was actually much better with Tony towards the end of the race, and I got too many incidents, so I did a drive-through penalty at the end. But I mean, all in all, it was a great race. I enjoyed it a lot.
And what was it like having a past Indianapolis 500 winner? He was just at Eldora last night racing with guys like Ernie Francis Jr., Willie T. Ribbs, Tony Stewart, Michael Waldrop, all of those guys. What was it like racing somebody who obviously knows his stuff and puts pressure on you in a different way than any old sim racer?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, you can tell he kept it very, very clean, and I'm glad for that. We had a nice little battle for a couple of laps, and Tony's a great guy for the community. He's doing a lot for the iRacing community on Twitch, and he can't say good enough things about the guy. He's just a great guy all around, the racer and person in real life.
So obviously, when we talked with Dave Kim about how important it was to get your community involved, obviously you've got a pretty big community of your own. We've got 73 viewers still on your stream over on Twitch. How important was it to you to get your community involved? And obviously, community always watches you race, but now you got to race with them, and they were racing for you. I'd imagine that's, for some of these guys, potentially a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity if they're that big of a fan for you.
I think they enjoyed that. We had a nice little voice chat going on my Discord, so everyone's kind of laughing and having fun mid-race. So I think it was great. All the guys that were involved in my team I think they enjoyed the whole race, which is, I mean, that was the whole point for everyone that joined the race and participated. So I think it's as a stream overall, I just try to have fun, and people come over and just watch. That's why I think most people watch other streamers. It's just to kind of have that little segue to watch someone else play some games and enjoy the time being there. So. No, it's a great community. The little community that I have behind my stream, it's all great guys, most of them, and I really enjoy doing it. Streaming is great, and I do it as much as I can.
It was certainly a fantastic run for you today, Balkan. Got to ask you, how do you wrap up a day like this? How do you then go into your next sim race? I know you guys race a lot. How do you prepare for the next one? How do you decompress?
I'm more of like a casual type of racer on night racing compared to probably some other guys out there. I mean, I stream daily from Tuesday to Friday, and then I just race as much as I can, and then enjoy the sim and enjoy the online racing community. And it's great fun. Like I said, today was another great race, great fun with Tony and Trevor and all the guys that were involved. So I can't ask for more, really. It's a great community, and hopefully we can keep it that way for the next few years to come.
And how do our viewers maybe don't watch you yet? How do you get them over to watch you? Where can they find you? Where can they find you? YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter?
So the best way to find me is on Twitch, so Balkan.tv or twitch.tv/Balkan. And I have a YouTube channel as well, but I'm mostly on Twitch from Tuesday to Friday, and I stream on noon GMT. So really more European-friendly stream, and I do about 3 hours of streaming almost every day except the weekends. But yeah, I'm on Twitch a lot, so you can find me there. If you're not racing Twitch, you'll probably find me.
Absolutely. Well, buddy, tip of the cap to you. 22nd up to 14th. A pretty good run. You were inside the top 10 before that penalty. A big tip of the cap to you. Big pound on the back. Great run today. Can't wait to see how things work out as far as points. And, of course, your team did fantastic. We saw a lot of purple up there. So, fantastic run. Can't wait to see how the results go. But we're going to let you go. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for the invite. And this was a great another day of racing. And thanks for the invite. Yeah, appreciate it.
Certainly was a fantastic day of racing, and Balkan doing a fantastic job for himself and his team. It was a great run for those purple guys. Certainly, it was a lot of fun to watch these guys battle. And you know what? Slaven was in the middle of a lot of those battles. They're very important battles just outside the top 10 as well, with guys like Tony Kanaan, guys like Matt Malone. So a lot to be had there for Balkan in the midfield. We do got to turn things over now to Eric Brennan and Samsoid, who's been waiting by.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And we'll pull Samsoid up here to the broadcast booth. And first off, Samsoid, thank you so much for being patient with us here. We're trying to spend a good bit of time with each one of you because the stories and all that you guys do for the sim racing community is incredible. And for you, I know qualifying didn't go the way that you wanted, but how would you judge your race or the competition for your team as a whole? We saw some really good runs out of a couple guys in your stable.
Yeah, so first of all, my team, super proud. Quali didn't seem to go well for any of us. Our practice pace looked good. We'd, done a lot of prep together. And I know, there's no points for practice, right? Practice was looking good. I really thought I'd be battling at the front, and obviously having TK and Yannick and even my AMs are good drivers. But there's no points for practice, right? And I let myself down in Quali. Race went well. I picked up a knock into the last chicane, which was fine. That was just door-to-door racing. But I don't know, the first time I really got to test my car was when I lost control of my car. And, yeah, bit gutted, but it was a fun fight back. I'm just looking back through the replay now, looking at Dave Cam and Dan Suzuki kill it at the front. So proud of those two. Yeah, just I missed out on it, that's all. But I really enjoyed myself.
You brought the all-star to the party. I mean, Tony Kanaan is a household name for many. It's one of the reasons why I know that I had friends and family tuning into the stream as well, and they're hooked. They love this format. How did that relationship come about, and was there any concern given the fact that he was in Rossburg, Ohio less than 12 hours ago?
No, not at all. I was watching him live on telly. We were chatting after the race. So how it came about, we run about 8 or 9 community races a week, and there was one race in particular on a Wednesday that TK obviously was interested in, used to watch with his son, and he reached out in Discord, joined our Discord, and was like, hey man, I'm looking to take part in that race. Is that something I can do? And I was like, of course, yes. And he brought Rubens and Dudu and a few of the others, and then yeah, I mean, we're both around a lot. We both love racing, and we just hit it off, become friends, and then we started racing in team races together, and then we formed the Samsoid Kanaan team. So we run about anywhere from 8 to 12 endurance teams at any one time. Yeah, and so he wasn't actually going to be racing today. It was all very last minute because I just naively assumed he wouldn't be able to. Like you say, he was racing and it was late night on a Saturday. So but yeah, he last minute contacted me, and of course I made room for a Kanaan in the Samsoid Kanaan team.
Now, one of the things that I love, we kind of look and identify some of the variations amongst the streamers. And one of the things that I absolutely love about you and your brand is really how inviting you are to everyone to get into, get involved, and to get better at sim racing. Your website, samsoid.com, has a
Yep.
lengthy list of how-to videos. What inspired you to put that together? And does that speak pretty much the volume or towards the branding in which you operate under, is the fact that, of course, we're all here to have fun, but
Yep.
you really provide a lot of steps to help people get comfortable with this style of enjoyable sim racing.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved helping people, and I mean, I didn't actually know my passion for sim racing until about 2 years ago. I mean, I've always loved it. Like, I've always enjoyed it as a game. Like, throwing up any old sim game, and whether using a controller or a wheel, I've always enjoyed it. But I don't know what happened. Like, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I just realized it was my passion. Like, I was annoyed I hadn't noticed before. And I've always enjoyed helping people. And right at the beginning, I did one of the videos to sort of, it was a subject I was stuck on, and I wanted to reach out and help people. And yeah, I mean, I'm super lucky. That's what formed the community around me. So, like, my one helpful video right at the beginning brought helpful guys to me, and the brand was built around that. So I am super lucky, and I never forget that, because I do love helping people. I love driving with people. I do as many team races as I can, and that's the side of it I love, right? Racing with people and building that community, for the race. So yeah, it would. I can't imagine doing this on my own, to put it another way, out there on my own, just in isolation. So yeah, I'm very lucky, and yeah, super proud of it.
Camaraderie between you and everybody else who was in here today has been incredible leading up to this event. I know that we don't have the final calculations of the points, at least not yet on our broadcast terms just yet, but how would you rank this race and this event? I know we were talking earlier to Matt Malone, how the dynamic was different with the team element. Was it fun for you, even if the results weren't exactly what you were looking for?
It was fun. So the team dynamic was strange, because obviously the second the flag goes green, obviously it almost, not that it feels like a solo race. Obviously, if one of your teammates is behind you, you have that air of knowing, you've almost got a wingman and a bit of respect. I did love the dynamic, but it's not. I'm an analytical sort of guy, but it's not like I could tally up how each team was doing, during the race. But I love the idea. Like, I've never thought of doing a race like this where you have team members in the race with you, because you worry about, like, people abusing it, right, and blocking other people, but there was none of that. It was just a straight, fair fight. I mean, as an example, the first 3 laps of the race were brilliant. I mean, there was I couldn't believe it. People behind and in front were really respectful. No one was doing anything stupid. Obviously, it was still fast, fair racing. I really enjoyed it. I love GT3s. This is my favorite track in iRacing, so I might be a bit biased, but I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Well, we really appreciate your involvement. We appreciate everything that you have done to assemble the cast of talent that we were able to watch for the last 50 minutes plus at Road Atlanta. We mentioned the website, samsoid.com. You got a ton of links there, merchandise available there as well, all those how-to videos we were mentioning. Where else could viewers and listeners be able to catch more of which you're involved in on the sim racing platform?
Well, Twitch has been my life for the last 6 to 7 months. I just made partner, so I've been pushing like crazy. YouTube is still it's where my races used to go, but for now, YouTube is going to be my hardware, software, and interviews. Interviews coming real soon. Yep, and so Twitch almost every day, and over on Discord. The Discord's 2,500 members strong, and that's how we all practice and race together. All of our teams are formed from the Discord. Yeah, I think we had almost 10 teams at the last big endurance, the 6 Hour of Glen, and I love it.
Well, thank you so much for all you do for the sport of sim racing. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your patience. I think we saved some of the most interesting storylines for last year, especially with the TK relationship that we had with him on your team, and top 10 finish for him as well. And we'll certainly be watching out for you. You guys all do an amazing job on the content creation side of things, and hopefully we get to do this again soon. Thank you oh so much, Sam Soid, for your time and your involvement in this.
Cheers. Thank you. All the best.
Cheers as well. So that's Sam Soid, who is one of the last streamers we'll have a chance to talk to for now as we wrap up this incredible. And I'm happy, Andrew, you and I kind of, wrestled about the term unique because of the fact that there was a team element to this race. And I'm happy to hear that that was universal, that everyone's kind of, racing is not always a selfish, individualized sport, but for the most part, you're focused on your car. And it branched out here and created an interesting element for us to follow along and for all of these streamers to also keep tabs up throughout their race. It was a blast.
It was a blast, and I'm gonna save a little bit on the results front. I'm gonna give these guys a little bit more time to double check their work. But all I'm gonna tell you is these team standings are going to be close. That's all we'll say for now. I do want to look over the overall race results. Let's go down through all 35 drivers rather. Of course, Linus Tech now taking the win. And look at that club as well, Dayach. What would that be? That would be Deutschland. That would be, I forget what AT is. And of course, CH would be Czech, I believe. Regardless, that's that kind of middle Europe section. I don't recall all the countries that are within it, but a lot of really fast drivers come out of that section of the world for very good reason. They are fantastic sim racers. Linus, one of them, takes the win today at Road Atlanta. You see Dan Suzuki second place, Dave Cameron right there with him. We talked to Dave Cameron. We have not been able to talk to Dan Suzuki. I don't think we'll get to talk with Dan today, but a fantastic run for him, and it's going to come down to well, possibly Dan's team. We'll have to find out here a little bit. I'm going to give Scott and his team a little bit more time to double-check some work and make sure we've got what we've got. But fourth place, checking in for Dan Suzuki, was Fabian Klockner. Klockner, in that fourth position. Tim Greven checks in at fifth. Marie Hrushka, impressive run there. Very impressive run. Up 10 positions or so, up into sixth. Dane Verano in seventh. Tommy DeWild in eighth. Yannick Mormon ninth. And TK, Tony Kanaan, wow, top 10. That's incredible.
Our second page of drivers, a couple of which did not have all that great of a run. Trevor Leonard came up just one spot shy of getting another one of those entries up into the top 10 for a team and organization that we were keeping our eyes on throughout the duration of this race. Joe Loon in 12th. Matt Malone, we heard from him earlier, carrying the banner for his team there with red logo that he had. You also were able to see throughout his branding of his streaming platform and company, comes home in 13th spot. Slavin Przina, who is actually also Balkan. So that's back-to-back finishes for some of our lead team streamers there, 13th and 14th. Tony Yates, 15th. Ian Carter, not a name that we called much, but lead lap finish, 16th in the running order. Todd Malik was 17th. Teague Ashburn was a name that I think all of us kind of thought that we would see up towards the front of the field by virtue of practice. However, Ashburn, unfortunately, was the last car to lead lap. Then we get down to Dan Bull, who was running top 10 when he got off track in the S's, and Sean Vincent takes you back to 20th, one lap down.
Finishing 21st is Anders Ankerson, and that's huge. Anders was up there in the top 10, and I think should have had a top 5 run together. Not sure what happened to Anders, but all we do know is he finished 21st and should have been at least 15 spots higher. Big, heartbreaking day for Anders. He finishes 21st, one lap down. Niels Juker finishes 22nd, one lap down. James Davidson, 23rd. Owen Constantine in 24th. Sam Soid ends up 25th, and what a guy. What a wholesome guy. That's all I have to say about Samson. Fantastic guy. Fantastic whole lad, honestly, Sam Soid. A big props to everything he's got going on with this channel and all the different operations. SamSoid.com, as you mentioned, Derek. A fantastic deal he's got going, and seriously deserves some big praise for what he's doing. Andy Rabbits checks in at 26th. Mark Koosters there in 27th. Eric Pereira, we saw a lot of trouble from him today. He was just not quite grappling with the track as he would have liked. He finishes 28th. Brock Kelly there 29th, and Anthony Warhol rounds out your top 30.
We get to a couple of cars that had some big misfortunes throughout the day, like Mike Kopetsky, who's not a name that we were able to call, finished the race, albeit 3 laps down. Jill Diart was 32nd. Jack Tranner, that was the one in which we got to hear from Matt Malone. He was running up in about the 7th spot when the wheel came off for him, quite literally. Finished 33rd. David Guttel, Guttel, who we thought we would see up towards the front of the running order as well. And Ahmet Yildirim, my apologies there, did not make the call, it appeared, for that one. That was one of the pros on Dan Suzuki's team. I wonder how these team points are going to shake out, and I wonder how it may have looked a little bit differently, or maybe even further weighted Suzuki's operation towards the top of the running order there if he had been able to get out there and compete in this 50-minute affair, because he is someone who we thought would be exceptionally quick today. Unfortunately, rounds out our 35-car field.
Well, I have word from Scott Rister, the man who puts all of this on, and I gotta give a big shout out to Scott as well for getting us on for this and getting all of this organized for the North American Racing League. Word is that we have a tie.
How?
Word is that we have a tie for the win today. So this is being sorted out as average finish from what I can tell. I will go from the bottom up. And we don't have a graphic for this, unfortunately, because it's all being done on the fly. But Matt Malone checks in at 5th with 87 points. It's like golf, so 87 points is a bad thing. Sam Soyd checks in at 79, so certainly further north. Dave Cam at 73. There's a big difference, though, when you get up to Dan and Balkan. It's going to be tabulated. It's going to be recounted, I think. I think they're going to double check this a few times, and you can find the official results later on from, at www.NorthAmericanRacingLeague.com/streamers-championship. But as of now, it is a tie for the win between Dan Suzuki's team and Balkan at 50 points apiece. I don't know how you go through 50 minutes of racing, Eric, and come down to a tie between seven different drivers. I don't know.
The first thing, Andrew, that comes to mind is that last lap pass that Grevin put on Hrushka for 5th that ended up being the difference maker, like quite literally. So that was how important that position was. I don't know if Grevin knew that at the time or if he was just desperate to get up there in the 5th place at the end, but that was the difference maker right there where they teeter-tottered one spot apiece. So that's crazy.
We can put our ticker back up. Don't pay any attention to the time top left. You can see Grevin for Balkan moves ahead of Dan Suzuki's Marie Hrushka. And this is a bit of the battle. And this is into turn 7. You can see these guys were battling for a couple of laps as we were covering other drivers throughout the field. This is what it came down to. These two drivers for each winning team swapping positions is what ties Balkan back up with Dan Suzuki. I don't know how we're going to sort out things for a tie for the win, but oh my goodness. This was all unprecedented, certainly. If you asked me a month ago if we thought we'd have this broadcast, never. I never thought we'd be broadcasting Tony Kanaan, Matt Malone, etc., Dan Suzuki, Balkan, etc. I certainly could not have told you at any point in time that I thought we'd have a tie. We were pretty well abreast of the situation with the points and how close it was going to be, but a tie. I can't believe it. And it comes down to this pass with Grevin and Hrushka.
Pretty incredible that the race for 5th ends up being one of the deciding elements as far as the team standings. I mean, and I'm with you. I would not have expected it, but this event has been so amazing and incredible from top to bottom after talking to the majority of our streamers and hearing their level of excitement and anticipation and how it's a really good opportunity for everyone to kind of cross their brands and their pathways that they have carved out amongst each other. I mean, surprised, yes, but judging by the field, and I mean, 50 minutes at Road Atlanta is very hard, especially with a fuel stop strategy, and for it to come down to being that close, especially after we saw qualifying and practice be as close as it was, I'm walking away very entertained, and I'm hopeful that we get to do some more of this because this is pretty incredible.
We want to try and go back and see if we can find that last lap pass from Marie Hrushka. And here it is. This will be the final pass where Hrushka gets passed by Tim Grevin. This is incredible. And the fact that we get to watch this in slow-mo real quick and see what's going to happen here is even more incredible. This is what it comes down to. And I can only imagine how much this has got to hurt for Dan Suzuki and Marie Hrushka. Did nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong. Taking the racing line, Grevin just had enough of a run to get to the inside and hold it side by side. They made contact here in this final corner. I mean, look at this. We've only seen this work a few times. Tony Kanaan, I think, did it the best of anybody. This is not usually a place to pass. You can do it if you're ballsy enough, and clearly Tim Grevin was. He had to do it, and it worked out. And if anybody ever asks you why somebody might make a desperation move in the final corner, well, that's exactly why. Certainly in this kind of event, it made the difference. That move from Tim Grevin, maybe a little bit ballsy, maybe a little bit optimistic, maybe a little bit controversial, But that's what made the difference for Balkan and tied up Balkan and Dan Suzuki. So if anybody ever asks you, why would you get aggressive in sim racing, especially on that final lap? Well, that's why. And it works out for Tim Greven in unbelievable fashion. I can't believe it.
Not only did he get to go skyward here in just a few moments, but he also helped elevate the Balkan team up into a tie for that first spot. So just wow. What? And I'm happy that we both had a good chuckle at this thing. We were talking about how much fun we were going to have coming on the air at this broadcast. And for this to happen on the last lap after the finish line, it was incredible. Shout
out to Tommy DeWild. He might have to enter the rocket science industry, particularly in terms of manufacturing boosters, because, oh my goodness, sent Greven to the moon. Look at that. I can't believe it. In fact, we don't have him on frame there. It's incredible how skyward he went. So I just want to give another big shout out to the North American Racing League. This has been a fantastic day, and this only sets us up for a better and better run throughout the season later on this year. July 22nd, we'll get things kicked off at the Hockenheim Ring. Road Atlanta comes up, I believe, is race number 2, so you want to be there as well. We've got a lot to look forward to. As we wrap this one up, got to mention some of the broadcasts we have coming up here on Pit Stop TV. So some of you guys coming in, maybe just for this broadcast, you might want to stick around. We've got some exciting stuff this week, including the debut of a brand new series. Now, it's going to be a lighter week than usual, only 2 broadcasts in the next 7 days, but we've got Monday evening, tomorrow evening, with the BRP iRacing Series Late Model Tour at the USA International Speedway on the dirt with those Dirt Pro late models. You'll want to be there if you like any kind of dirt racing. Even if you're new to dirt racing, you might want to tune in. Certainly, USA is going to be like the Daytona for that series. Speaking of Daytona, we're in Daytona Wednesday night, debuting our new tenure with the Outlaws Sim Series. I want to give a shout out to Emerson Arden, Jacob Zala, and Adam Gardner over there at the Outlaws Sim Series, making this deal happen, particularly Emerson Arden, for getting this all organized and bringing a brand new series to Pit Stop TV for the first time ever, that we're going to have Outlaw Sim Series action. It's the Clash at Daytona. Not points racing just yet, but Emerson and Jacob will walk you through all of the action Wednesday night. We may even have a second Wednesday broadcast. Stay tuned on our social media for that. But we've also, of course, got next Monday with the BRPI. This is the first time I've had to put next Monday on this graphic, but next Monday with the BRPI Racing Series at Fairbury. So, again, a slightly lighter week, but then if you fast forward a week, we'll have Nork back, we'll have more competition. In fact, MSRA will be at Knoxville next week, so there's a lot to look forward to, even if this week is going to be a little bit lighter. So we're going to enjoy the week of a little bit less racing, get to breathe for a second, and get ready for next week of racing, and certainly pump out a lot of content, I think, on our social media. We'll have a lot from this race in particular, and this is where you can follow along with us, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, we're covered from wall to wall on the social media front. If you want to check us out on Facebook, that's facebook.com/pitstoptv/ Instagram as well, where we have upped our content significantly. And hats off to Trey Shuttlesworth, who's on the team with us today, holding it down there. I actually just saw him post the checkered flag run to the finish from today's race already at Instagram.com/pit_stop_TV/ Twitter at twitter.com/pitstoptv_/ And as I always say, my go-to spot, especially on nights where I'm not on the call for some of these events, maybe hanging out with the wife later on in the evening, looking to throw something on, listen to some of my coworkers here on the platform in action, doing their thing, youtube.com/c/pitstoptv1/ on YouTube.
And I certainly want to thank everybody at the North American Racing League, Scott Rister in particular, getting with us and making this happen. I got to thank all of the streamers who came out and raced and organized their teams, and all of the teams as well. I see Yannick Mormon out in the chat. We see a lot of drivers out there. I saw Jesse Albert talking it up a lot. Certainly, big thank you to all of you for being here today and allowing us to broadcast this race. And I mean, this was fantastic. This is the perfect way. I could not think of a better way to kick off a tenure with a brand new league than this broadcast, this race. This was fantastic, and seriously, a big thank you to everybody for making this one happen. From the bottom of my heart and from the bottom of Pit Stop TV's heart, this was a fantastic day. I genuinely, I'm trying to think of ways that this could have been better. I don't think there is one. This was fantastic, Eric.
It was, and we mentioned in our lead, and we mentioned before we came on air that it was going to be a little bit different with that team element, and it actually added a lot of flavor to the broadcast. It was a sprint race format, and it also helped that all 35 cars that were entered in today's race were experienced and really well-versed sim racers. We had close racing all throughout the event. The pit strategy came into formation late, and who would have thought that a pass for 5th place on the final turn of the final lap would shake things up in the fashion in which it did. And all of our streamers who stopped by and have a chance to talk to us about all that they do for the community. It was a real coming together of so many people involved in a facet which we all tend to enjoy, whether it be broadcasting or strapping in the virtual cockpit ourselves. And I think this was a home run all the way around, and I agree with you. I'm just happy to have been a part of it, my friend.
Absolutely, and it sets us up for a fantastic tenure again. Thursday nights beginning July 22nd rather, with the North American Racing League. I'm looking forward to it even more than I already was. It's going to be fantastic. GT3 cars at some of the world's best facilities, including Hockenheimring, to start things off. Make sure to be here on Pit Stop TV for it when it happens. It's going to be a lot of fun, but for now, all things must come to an end eventually, and it's that time for this broadcast. I got to give a big thank you once again to everybody involved, and to all of you watching along here at Pit Stop TV, facebook.com/PitStopTV, maybe on Twitter, potentially, at PitStopTV_, if you're watching along on Twitch, at twitch.tv/Pit_Stop_TV, and the bulk of you today watching over on YouTube at youtube.com/C/PitStopTV1. You can also follow along with us on Instagram at Pit_Stop_TV. Again, that is at Pit_Stop_TV. That will do it, though, from the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Once again, happy to have had you all here for this one. It was fantastic. A great way to kick things off with NARL coverage. For all of Pit Stop TV, Eric Brennan and Trey Shuttlesworth alongside this afternoon. We're almost to the afternoon. I'll go ahead and say that one now. This afternoon now, thank you so much for watching. My name is Andrew Cardinale IV. Can't wait to have you back for some more broadcasts. It's going to be a lot of fun, but you've got to be here for it. Make sure to come back to us at Pit Stop TV. We will see you next time.